Big 12 Today with Ari and James. Monday through Friday, 8A to 11A Eastern Time. Your home for all things Big 12.
This is Big 12 Today here on Big 12 Radio, powered by Modelo. Kicking off the work week, it is a Monday. He's Artie Timken. I'm James Westling. We've got T-Chains, Taman Turner on the board. Got Anthony Smith on the video side. T-Chains is going to raise my earphone level just a pinch as we get started here. It's our Modelo. That would make him angry. It's our Modelo spring football Big 12 country road trip series. And today we hit on TCU, who's won 9 games back-to-back seasons. Can they break through to the next level? We'll be talking with TCU head football coach Sonny Dykes. But I am pumped up.
Yeah, I don't feel like you've matched the intensity of the week right now.
Okay.
I feel like you came in a little bit understated, just kind of like, oh yeah, it's just a Monday, blah 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 blah. Like, come on, man.
We ease in.
It's a huge week.
We ease in.
We just finished a huge Saturday of games. We got the Big 12 tournament this week. We got NCAA tournament now less than a week away, or the Selection Sunday less than a week away.
Dude, I'm so pumped up for the back half of our week when we are going to be in Kansas City at the T-Mobile Center for the Big 12 men's basketball tournament. We arrive Wednesday night, so we'll be there Thursday, Friday. We'll have a 1-hour Saturday championship special. I'm also very stressed about the trip, which we'll touch on later, because you're reason numero uno for that stress in the best way. But
excellent. Everything's coming to fruition.
It feels like when we were driving in this morning, I was thinking about how, our kids are getting closer to spring break. For my kids, it's their final week of school. They get Friday off, and then bam, they're in spring break. I feel the same way as an adult. Like, spring break in your 20s is Cancun, Padre Island. Spring break in your 40s, Kansas City basketball with a media credential. I'm here for it. Same energy, same vibes.
Oh, it's the same thing, 100%. Actually, Kansas City's way better.
Yeah, it is. You've got all these different fan bases converging on Power and Light District, the T-Mobile Center. The women's just had a banger tournament. West Virginia shocks TCU. We'll touch on that game here in a minute.
Yeah, and by the way, the court was phenomenal for the championship game. Each team had their own basket that was branded for them. It was incredible.
All the court critics have been silenced.
Silenced.
You
can't give everybody everything, no matter what.
You seen these hawkers on social media throwing shade at us for overhyping the court announcement?
What?
Yeah. Where are you at now?
Yeah. Talk about overhyping. We underhyped, if anything.
Underhyped that court.
Yeah.
It's a sick court.
We very much underhyped it. We should have thrown a huge party. We should have had confetti.
No hype is too much hype for this floor.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see what it's going to look like in the men's tournament, which starts later this week. All right, so we've got our Big 12 Whiparound. We will go through the final regular season Saturday on the men's side. We'll take a look at the men's bracket. And then later on this hour, Chancellor Johnson, the Big 12 analyst and content creator, he's going to join us about 35 minutes from now. So Taman's got the games. We've got the recaps. Final regular season Saturday determined a lot on the men's side. So, T-Chains, where do we start?
All right, we start our first game, Utah at Baylor.
Well, Baylor went off in this game. 101 points, 101-75, the final at Foster Pavilion. Scott Drew earned his 500th career win, one of just 25 active Division I coaches to reach that milestone. If this was the final home game for Tunde Yesufu, 26 points on 10 of 16 shooting. Cameron Carr could be his final game in Waco. He added 21. Baylor shot a blistering 62% from the floor.
Yeah, and 68% in the first half. They hit 21 of their first 25 shots. You mentioned it with Tunde Yesufu. Both freshmen just exploded for Baylor. Tunde Yesufu scored 26 points, and Cam Carr was incredible as well. Utah turned the ball over 16 times, and Baylor converted that into 31 points. I told friends of mine that are Baylor alums that were going to this game, like, oh, yeah, Baylor will mop the floor with them. They're like, well, Baylor's bad this year. I was like, yeah. Yeah, you ain't seen nothing yet.
They're not that bad.
Yeah.
Okay. Utah finishes 2-16, by the way, 10-21 overall. They'll be much better next year. They didn't have the resources this year. They only had about 3 guys that I thought could even play for anybody else in the league.
I don't know if James knows this, but Kansas State played Kansas over the weekend, so that's the next game on the deck.
Well, why was Kansas wearing red at home? That's stupid. That's all I have to say about the 104-85 beatdown for Kansas. They won on Senior Day for the 43rd consecutive year. 20 straight for KU at home against K-State. Darren Peterson, 27 points on 10 of 15 shooting. Looked like he was playing a bunch of middle schoolers out there.
Yeah, I mean, what's with the minutes with Peterson? He barely played in this game. 27, very economical for Peterson on 15 shots. Kansas with 205 all-time victories now over Kansas State is the most for one opponent against any other opponent in college basketball history.
Oh, cool.
Just had to drop that in there. But, yeah, I thought this was Darren Peterson at his best. He was finishing at the rim. He was operating in the mid-range. He was commanding double teams, opened up his teammates. Trey White with 23 and 11, hit 5 threes. Melvin Council with 17, 10, and 8 rebounds. Nearly had a triple-double. Yeah, I mean, they weren't playing the best team in the world, but it was an impressive victory for Kansas nonetheless. Looking amazing in their beautiful red uniforms at home.
They were sick uniforms, I will say that.
All right, next game, Arizona at Colorado.
Yeah, Arizona in this game got a little bit of a scare. Arizona finishes the regular season your Big 12 champs, 16-2 in league, 29-2 overall, 89-79, but it wasn't easy. Arizona was down by as many as 11 in the first half. They were down by a basket at halftime, but how did they answer? They shot 70% from the floor in the second half. Braden Burries had a season-high 31, including 22 in the second half. Koa Pete had 25. The freshmen were incredible. Koa Pete, 25 points on 12 of 15 shooting.
Yeah, and Koa Pete was the main ingredient, main cog in the first half, and it was Burries in the second half who had 22 of his 31 in the second half. Arizona rallied from down 10 late in the down 11 late in the first half. I thought Bangkok Dak going down with foul trouble really helped Arizona in this one, but they dominated in the paint, 54-26, held a 37-32 rebounding advantage. And Arizona recorded 22 assists on 33 made field goals.
I will say Colorado has a freshman, Isaiah Johnson. He set a new school freshman scoring record. He had 28 points in this game. He surpassed Alec Burke's mark.
Wow.
From the 2009-2010 season. This is going to be a big-time player for the Buffs next year.
And it's the most wins in the regular season in the history of Arizona basketball. So the storied history, 29 wins, most ever for Arizona. Congratulations to them.
All right, next one on deck, Arizona State at Iowa State.
Well, this wasn't much of a game. 86-65, Iowa State pulls away. This game, actually, Arizona State played really well for about a little more than half of the contest. Arizona State led 45-41, but then Iowa State goes on this historic run, a 24-0. That's a kill shot squared. Kill shot on top of a kill shot. They broke it wide open. Balanced scoring, Jefferson, Lipsy, Momcilovic all finished with 16, and then Lipsy had 6 steals in his Hilton finale on senior night, a very emotional game for Taman Lipsy, who's been there forever.
Yeah, did I see this right, that Arizona State had 23 turnovers? Because it felt like they had more. And 13 of those 23 came in the final 20 minutes. Iowa State had 16 steals. Lipsy had 6 of them. In fact, Lipsy went on a true senior night, 16, 6, and 6, which is too many sixes, Taman. Maybe should have had one more point, one more rebound. 16, 6, and 6. 6 steals on senior night. It's a lot of sixes. So, yeah, Iowa State was down 4 at halftime, and then for 9 minutes of this game, Arizona State couldn't score. 24-0 run. That's a kill shot of all kill shots.
And Bobby Hurley got ejected, by the way. Just a little side note there.
His last regular season game as the Arizona State head coach. How about
17th time this season.
All right, next one, Houston at Oklahoma State.
Houston at Oklahoma State. Man, Oklahoma State, they battled in this game. Oklahoma State led by as many as 13 in the first half. They held a 4-point lead at the break, 41-37. But then Chase McCarty, a redshirt freshman,
Who?
Houston. This dude is going to be the next great at Houston. He's going to be the next Emmanuel Sharp, the next Jamal Shed. He's a baller. He's 6'5". He's well built. He can shoot the cover off the ball, but he's been battling through a whole plethora of injuries, which is why he redshirted last year. But they're super high on him. He had 14 of his 20 points in the second half. Houston rallied. They finish 26-5, 14-4 in the Big 12.
I mean, who? Chase McCarty, a 4-star redshirt freshman, came off the bench and scored 20 points. He was electric from three. He's the leading scorer in this game. When you think about all the guards that they have, to see McCarty emerge, or start to see Mercy Miller more and more now, it's really interesting to see how this rotation is getting longer as they get into postseason play. Kind of a very interesting season for Houston. But yeah, Chase McCarty was phenomenal in this game, and looked like an upset was brewing in Stillwater before. Houston was absolutely dominated for the better part of 30 minutes of this basketball game, but their depth and their ability to wear Oklahoma State down was what won it for them.
All right, next one, Texas Tech.
Real quick, McCarty hit a dagger three, by the way, that you're watching on Big 12 Studios to make it 80-73 with about 40 seconds to go. And if you see him in person, the TV doesn't do him justice for how built he is. He looks like an NBA-ready guy right now.
All right, next one, Texas Tech at BYU.
Texas Tech led for the majority of this game. BYU rallied late. Rob Wright III just took over. 23 points. He had 27 for the game, but 23 in the second half. He made his first 7 baskets after halftime. BYU snapped that 3-game skid. I also thought that BYU, Kevin Young with the coaching move of the year, he put Kadeem Boop on Christian Anderson in the second half. Boop is about 6'9", but he's lightning quick, and he made life very difficult for Christian Anderson in the second half. He couldn't clear any of his step-back threes. He had to work in the lane. The Marriott Center, they stormed the court after an 82-76 win. BYU takes down 10th-ranked Texas Tech.
Yeah, Tech was up 13 at half. They hit 12 first-half threes, and then they ran out of gas. Rob Wright scored 27. You mentioned 23 in the second half. And Wright and DeBanza combined to make 5 straight buckets to fuel a 15-2 run to give BYU a 75-66 lead with 4:16 left. Keita was phenomenal in this game. 11 rebounds, 6 on offense. He was an absolute beast.
All right.
And yeah, this came down to Christian Anderson basically needing to take over down the stretch, and he couldn't do it.
Okay, final one, Cincinnati at TCU.
Well, who in the world would want to play TCU right now? They've won 5 in a row. They've won 8 of their last 9 games, including wins over Iowa State, at Texas Tech, and they handled business against Cincinnati at Schulmeyer Arena on Saturday. Jaden Pierre had 18 points. Layla Vicious added 14. David Punch was balanced. Micah Robinson hit a buzzer-beating 3 at the half to put TCU up 32-29. It was tied. Then they went on a 9-0 run, and really Cincinnati could never claw their way back in the game. They committed 19 turnovers, which TCU turned into 24 points.
Yeah, 19 turnovers for Cincinnati. TCU closes with 5 straight wins. It's their longest Big 12 winning streak ever.
Wow.
Congratulations to them. Also, TCU had a buzzer beater at the end of half from 3 that I think really gave them the momentum they needed in the second half. A Jalen Celestine three-pointer cut TCU's lead to 1, 36-35, less than 3 minutes into the second half. But the Horned Frogs went on a 9-0 run that basically ended the game for Cincinnati, and a must-win game for the Bearcats.
That's all I got, guys.
What about we missed the Friday night game? It's a big one. West Virginia and UCF.
Come on, Taman.
That's on
missed
me.
it too.
West Virginia, UCF.
West Virginia got a 15-point win, 77-62. Honor Huff went off for 24 points.
Yeah, had they not lost to K-State, this game would have meant a lot more. UCF is reeling here. TCU is getting stronger. UCF is reeling. They find themselves in the bubble now as they've lost 3 straight here. West Virginia sweeps the season series against UCF. West Virginia was up 22-10 in the first 10 minutes. UCF shot 35% overall, missed 5 of 6 from three-point range, and did not attempt a free throw in the first 20 minutes. And it was hard for them to come back after that.
UCF is really struggling to defend right now, which is this late in the year, usually it goes the other way.
Yep.
Teams are more productive on the defensive end, but in their last 3 games, they've given up 87 to Baylor. They lost that overtime game against Oklahoma State, 111 to 104. And then West Virginia hanging 77s like giving up the century mark to anybody else because they're like 360th in adjusted tempo. They don't have a lot of possessions. So that's a killer loss. They're 3-6, UCF, in their last 9 games. And to your point, Lenardi has them part of the last 4 in or the last 4 buys.
Let me pull it up. Let me go to it. UCF is last 4 buys currently.
Man.
We'll have to get deeper into bracketology. In fact, there's a stat right now that shows that parity is dead in college basketball. And it may be even buried based on what happens at the 2026 NCAA tournament. Also, congratulations to West Virginia. It's the first time ever that a 2 seed has won the Big 12 Women's Championship, Women's Tournament. So congratulations to them. 11 straight that the 1 seed had won that tournament. Man. So impressive stuff on the women's side this weekend for West Virginia and handing TCU this loss.
Mountaineers won their 3rd conference tournament title in program history, their first since 2017, as they take down the top seed TCU 62-53. A little bit more on that game coming up after the break, and then we'll go through the Big 12 men's basketball tournament bracket and which games over the weekend mattered the most and why. He's Ari, I'm James. This is Big 12 Radio, exclusively on TuneIn. You're watching us on Big 12 Studios.
In Kansas City is underway. West Virginia basketball. 2 teams looking for the first points in this game. Provided by Jordan Harrison. Cook trying to get around Miles. Good feed to McCray. Rolls it in for 2. Miles. Defended by Woodley. Miles down the lane, count it, and 1. Harrison for 2. Jordan Harrison, as Christy talked about right at the top of the telecast.
She usually will take her defender off the bounce and back them down. But right now, and maybe this is going to be 2 for them. There you go.
Great feed by Miles as she finds Parker. Harrison. Count it. It's a 3. Mountaineers dodge one there. TCU had multiple opportunities.
And right now, with this 9-point lead, West Virginia does not need to be in a hurry. They do not even need to look to shoot the shot until about 5 seconds to go.
Inside of 2 minutes to go. Wheeler on the drive. Big B, good shooter. Can't get it. Rebound, McElwski.
TCU's got a foul.
They don't get anybody. Here's Shaw all alone for the layup. Cue Country Roads. For the first time in 9 years, West Virginia, Big 12 tournament champions.
Back here on Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio, Jeff Mittie and the Wildcats had a nice run in Kansas City before they were bounced by TCU. Speaking of TCU, they were looking to go back-to-back on the women's side for Big 12 Women's Basketball Tournament Championships, but West Virginia, who lost to TCU twice in the regular season. Remember, one of those losses came on a buzzer beater in mid-January. West Virginia won the one that mattered yesterday. Olivia Miles picked up her fourth foul just 30 seconds into the third quarter. That was massive. She had to sit for an extended stretch. West Virginia outscored TCU 17-9 in the third quarter alone to really take command. TCU committed 5 turnovers in that third period without their star guard, and West Virginia's Jordan Harrison, the most outstanding player, 21 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals. She was the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year, and then she went out and she won the tournament MVP. Also went perfect from the foul line, 10 for 10. Sydney Shaw hit 3 threes, had 17 points. West Virginia, they're hot heading into the NCAA tournament. Here's a very emotional head coach, Mark Kellogg.
Obviously, super proud, super happy. Probably even a little emotional at the time. There's just so much that goes into this, so many people that are a part of programs, cultures. I said it out there on the stage, but it starts, at the presidential level. I have a phenomenal athletic director I've been with at a couple places that just kind of gives you opportunities, gets out of your way a little bit, lets us do our thing. Great coaches, great staff. We have unbelievable character around us, the players included, and then all the credit to those guys. They did the hard work. We just try to put the plans together and put them in place and let these kids go showcase, what they're capable of. And I think that was on display tonight. So much respect for TCU, Coach Campbell. That's a phenomenal program. He's done a great job there. We felt like we were so close the first 2 times we played them, obviously. Felt like we really let one get away from us at our place. And we just, I felt good when I woke up today. I felt like our kids were dialed in. I thought we were ready to play. We knew we were going to have to make some big shots. We had to defend at the level that I think we're capable of. We needed to score more than 50, which is what we'd scored the first 2 times we played them. And so we found a little bit of offense to get to, I don't even know what did we get to? 62. So 62 at times for us can be good enough. But, my mom passed away in, end of December. She's from Missouri. I coached a year at Maryville at Northwest Missouri State. Both of my parents are from the state of Missouri. So to come back here, she would have been here. Obviously, she loved every second of this. So that's just some of the emotions that I guess are kind of flooded here because you work so hard and you spend so much time. You miss out and your family, but to have the rest of my family's here and it's special, but it's been on my mind a little bit just being back here and how much she would be loving this. So super thankful, a little emotional, but mostly proud of these 2 guys.
Wow. Great stuff there for Mark Kellogg, and obviously I'm, glad he shared that about his mom who passed away in December. So obviously that's still extremely fresh in his mind. You mentioned this. Olivia Miles' foul trouble played a crucial role in this game. She picked up her 4th foul like 30 seconds into the second half, sat for the majority of the third quarter, and in that stretch, West Virginia went on a 17-9 run and kind of took over. And you've got to balance having Olivia Miles for the full game with the foul trouble that she had, but it shows you like TCU without Olivia Miles is just a different beast. And, West Virginia did a really good job of forcing the issue, getting Olivia Miles into foul trouble, and that played a crucial role in this game.
Really nice win for West Virginia. An amazing story about his parents, both being from the state of Missouri. He coached at Northwest Missouri State, which is only about an hour from Kansas City, and then his mom passing away in December. Heavy hearts for Mark Kellogg and West Virginia. Massive win on the women's side, 62-53. They get the victory. All right, the Big 12 men's basketball tournament bracket, which starts on Tuesday with those opening round games, has officially been set. And when you look at the seeding, the double byes go to Arizona, the 1 seed, Houston, the 2, Kansas vaults all the way to the 3 seed with BYU taking down Texas Tech. Texas Tech falls to the 4 seed, and then that knocks Iowa State to the 5 seed. So Iowa State will have to play on Wednesday. They'll get the winner of Baylor and Arizona State. Those first-round matchups, Baylor against Arizona State, kicks the whole thing off on Tuesday. Then you've got Utah and Cincinnati to follow. Then a little bit of a break, and then I think at 6 p.m. Central Time, the night games start with Kansas State and BYU, and then Oklahoma State and Colorado. Just your overall thoughts when you look at the men's tournament bracket.
Yeah, first off, it's to me pretty remarkable that Kansas ends up as a 3 seed, considering all the adversity that they've dealt with over the course of this season, and all the ups and downs. And they also were on the brink of starting 0-3 in conference play. When you think about the near loss to TCU to have them start nearly 0-3, but instead it's 1-2, and they're off and rolling. So I'm sure there's probably some people shaking their heads like, what do you mean? Kansas has an expensive roster. They've got a lot of talent. But I think just what they went through this year with having 2 different teams basically now being molded into one and getting that 3 seed is huge. Iowa State now avoiding the double bye, so they've got to play an extra game. Do you see any upsets in this bracket? Do you see any teams that can make some deep runs? Do you think Baylor's got it in them to make a run here?
Baylor's one team I would not want to play. I would not want to play Cincinnati. I would not want to play TCU right now. Yeah. And there's potential for a Thursday matchup of TCU and Kansas, which would be a rematch of that overtime thriller that Kansas won way back in January. It was like the first week of the Big 12 regular season.
Right. Remember, Kansas was about to start 0-3 for the first time in conference play since like the 80s.
And I think I saw a note over the weekend that the eventual national champion in men's basketball, the eventual national champion has at least played in the semifinals of their conference tournament for like the last 30 years. Yeah. I think even dating back to the 80s. It may be the last 40 years. So if you get upset early, usually that carries over to the NCAA tournament. But to answer your question, man, TCU and Kansas would be one that would be really intriguing to me. I look at Iowa State and Baylor as a potential Wednesday matchup that I think would be intriguing. Cincinnati and UCF is another game. I mean, I see a lot of windows for upsets on that second day. Not sure about the third, but maybe the second.
Yeah, I mean, and look, the Cincinnati-UCF game is huge from the standpoint of maybe Cincinnati's still in it. UCF certainly try to hold on to their final bye, but I think if Cincinnati or UCF were to lose that, they would have lost, 4 straight? They might be a team playing, as an 11 seed in Dayton to start the tournament, as opposed to playing, and getting that automatic bye, if you will, into the field. So I think there's some really intriguing matchups here, and shows, from top to bottom how good this conference has been.
When you look at the Tuesday games, so game 1 is Arizona State and Baylor, 11:30 Central, 2 teams that just finished 7-11 and 6-12. But Baylor just beat Utah by 26 on Saturday. And remember, Baylor hung with Houston earlier in the week.
Arizona.
Before that, they hung with Arizona. They beat somebody that was ranked, shooting 62% for the game. I feel like Baylor's got a little bit of momentum going into this tournament. And they're a team that's still part of, the next 4 out. They'd have to probably get to the championship game and win the thing to steal a bid. But that game is intriguing to me to see what Baylor looks like.
Yeah, and I think if there's any team that could make a run in this tournament and get an automatic bid that is not going to be in the field, I think it's Baylor, which is bizarre to me. But with Tunde Yesufu and Cam Carr playing at the level that they're playing at, and the potential they have, the talent they have, I could see them making a run here.
They've figured out how to defend at a higher level. They're still top 50 in KenPom, okay? They're 48th in the country in KenPom. They're 340th in that luck rating, which means they're playing much better than their 16-15 record, which, by the way, Baylor and Auburn have the same record.
Wow.
16-15.
And yet Auburn is safely in the field with their 4-12 record in Quad 1 games. Latest bracketology, Joe Lenardi has 11 SEC bids.
It's too many. It's way too many. Way too many.
By the way, have you caught up on what's going on in conference tournaments, automatic bids? So 6 of 31 automatic bids have been clinched. Queens wins the A-Sun, defeating Central Arkansas It's the first time Queens is going to be making an NCAA tournament appearance. High Point defeated number 2 seed Winthrop. So High Point represents the Big South. Northern Iowa wins the Missouri Valley. They defeated UIC 84-69 in the Panthers' first NCAA tournament appearance since 2016. And no, in answering your question, that was 2010. Long Island they get an automatic bid, but that basically they're going to play in the title game against Mercyhurst, who is ineligible for the NCAA tournament during its Division I transition period. That's the most ridiculous rule I've ever heard in my life. If you are transitioning up a level, you have less scholarships, so you should be rewarded for making ridiculous runs like they're making. But basically, Long Island and Mercyhurst will play in an NEC championship game that has no bearing on the NCAA tournament. It's ridiculous. The fact that Mercyhurst is in this spot is remarkable, and they should be rewarded for it, but I digress. Tennessee State won the Ohio Valley Conference, defeating Morehead State 93-67. It's Tennessee State's first NCAA tournament appearance since 1994, and they're coached by Nolan Smith, the former Duke star.
Where's he coaching?
Tennessee State.
He'll be a head coach somewhere else next year.
They'll be dancing for the first time since 1994.
Wow.
North Dakota State won the Summit League, and they are 27-7, returning to the NCAA tournament for the first time since 2019. There's Sun Belt Championship today, and then a SoCon Championship going on today as well. So 2 more automatic bids are up for grabs. And what Georgia Southern is doing right now is incredible, because the Sun Belt Championship is basically set up for the 1 seed to play the 2 seed. And if you're the 10 seed like Georgia Southern is, you've got to win, I think it's like 6 games in 6 days.
Yep.
And so far they've done it. It's been an unbelievable run. They defeated Marshall, the 2 seed, last night. But before that, Old Dominion Arkansas State, they defeated Marshall 82-78 last night. That's the 2 seed. They defeated Coastal, South Alabama, and Arkansas State before that. This is actually the second time they beat Marshall in the last few weeks. So Georgia Southern is on one right now. They've won 6 straight after losing 6 of their previous 7. And Georgia Southern now 1 win away from getting to the NCAA tournament at 21-15 and 8-10 in Sun Belt play. They'll take on Troy in the Sun Belt Championship game.
I was pulling for Central Arkansas to beat Queens. It would have been the first NCAA tournament for either program ever. Queens has only been Division I for like less than a decade.
Is that in Queens, New York?
No, they're in Charlotte.
Okay.
Yeah, they're in Charlotte. And Central Arkansas, the Sugar Bears, they have a player, Cameron Hunter, who, born and raised in Conway, Arkansas, which is where UCA is, had a really, averaged 12 or 13 as a freshman, transferred out, went to Wisconsin, and then he came back. He's like, I miss being the guy. He scored 49 points in that conference championship game, even though they lost. And then, old friend alert for you, Ari, since your YPS is off the charts today, your yawns per segment.
Ooh.
You also had to throw a little shade with KU beating K-State for the 20th straight time. Is that what it was?
Also 205 wins for Kansas over Kansas State, most for any program over any other program. Just had to throw that in there.
Yeah, really cool stat. Love that stat.
Just little S and G's, and giggles.
I saw Jim Less this weekend. Does that name ring a bell?
Jim
Less. Jim Less.
Sounds like a pun. Who's Jim Less?
Jim Less was the head coach at Bradley.
No, I
06.
Old friend alert, huh?
Killer Bees took that Bradley team to the Sweet 16. He's at UC Davis.
Yeah,
now.
Bradley doesn't do anything now.
First thing I said,
Bradley's
Jim,
terrible.
I said, I've got a story for you. I loved your Bradley team 06.
How far did K-State go in that tournament?
Yeah, not very far. Jamie Dixon on TCU, improving throughout the season. They've won 5 in a row. They're the 6th seed. They've climbed all the way to the 6th spot in the Big 12 tournament.
Not really. I mean, I think the thing is, I've been doing it. I got a bunch of wins, and I just like how as I said, I think I said earlier, is you just want to. I think coaching is having guys and players that improve individually, and teams improve as the year gone, and do the best with the resources and that you have. That's what coaching is. I mean, certain jobs are built to be are the blue bloods. We're just getting every ounce of we can out of our what we have here, and respectful to all involved. So, if you're asking what I'm thinking about me, no, that's not it.
Jamie Dixon, his TCU team has won 5 in a row. They're up to number 40 in the net rankings. They are 5-7 in quad 1, 21-10 overall. They are completely off the bubble. I think they're playing themselves anywhere from a 8 seed to a 10 seed probably in the NCAA tournament, and they could be a real problem.
I think they're higher than that.
They're higher?
Yeah, I think they could be a 6 seed right now. I mean, yeah, they're 5 quad 1 wins, 5-7 in the quad 1. I mean, that's impressive. And the fact, I think we've talked a lot about this with Cincinnati, but the fact that they're playing so good right now, they're so hot. They've just been as good as anybody in college basketball at the end of the season. I mean, this is a team where it's like, man, if they're a 10 or 11 seed, you got to pick them to make a deep run. But now, they might be too high for that.
Yeah. All right, coming up next, Chancellor Johnson, the Big 12 analyst, content creator. He was all over the place over the weekend. He will join us to talk men's basketball coming up after the break. He's Ari, I'm James. This is Big 12 Radio. We are powered by our friends at Modelo on this Monday.
Let's go, Johnny.
West Virginia, top 25 in defensive efficiency per Ken Palm for UCF, like you did, and Themis Folks is everything.
Absolutely. He is the key that gets it going. You see right there, a little up-screen action from John Bowl, a little backdoor lob to Jordan Burks.
Mountaineers in the half court. Honor Huff takes a lot of threes, makes a lot of threes. Kick corner, Lorien for 3. Rainbow got it.
Come over and change those shots at the rim.
End-line drive, hang, and rejection by Obioha. Honor Huff on the trot. Eagle staff for 3. Got it! Cutters denied. 5 to shoot. No urgency. Huff, they need a hoist. 2. Huff contested corner 3. Got it! Loses. It'll have to play Tuesday first round. Florida on the drive. They're trying to avoid that 9-10 seed and having to play Tuesday in Kansas City.
There's no question. You want to get a bye if you're West Virginia, obviously heading into the Big 12 tournament before you run into the likes of a Houston.
Folks in on Eagle staff. Burks, 9 to shoot. Driving on Lorien, slams on the brakes and puts it home. Jenkins, 8 to shoot. Show and shake, Jenkins. Up fake, 3 seconds. Huff, quick trigger, got it!
This entire game.
And BJ, we're just getting to a point where the map looks heavily Mountaineer. Taken away by Kugel. Dunks it home. They get their 15th home win of the year for the first time in 9 seasons. West Virginia claims 15 at home.
Back inside Big 12 today, brought to you, the Full-Time Fan, by Modelo. Heard exclusively on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios. He's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling, this guy. And now we're talking with Chancellor Johnson, our Big 12 storyteller, Big 12 connoisseur, Big 12 analyst. Chancellor, good morning.
Good morning, fellas. How are you guys?
Man, we're great. Hope you're up and wired because I've got to put you on the spot. Your Big 12... all Big 12 first team, you have 10. You have 10 guys. Okay, you've got 10, which I know the league will release 10, but I want to hear your best 5. Who are your best 5, starting 5 for your all Big 12 first team?
Okay, I have no problem with this one. So I'm going to go at my 1. I'm going to go Christian Anderson. I thought out of all the point guards, he had the best season. Then at my 2, I'm going to go Braden Burris. 3, we'll go AJ DeBonsa. 5, I'll go Mo Krivas. And 4, who is my 4 man? Could go Joshua Jefferson. Who are my other options? I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. Since you put him on the spot.
Probably Jefferson. Probably Badunga would be in the conversation. JT Toppin. Did you say Toppin?
JT Toppin. So that was my 5. So it'll go. I'll go Christian Anderson, Braden Burris, AJ DeBonsa, JT Toppin, and then I'll finish with Mo Krivas. That is my all Big 12 first team starting 5.
Not bad. You visited with Jamie Dixon in a video that I encourage people to check out. I mean, they're hot right now. They're as good as any team in college basketball. You know, what were your takeaways from their win and what Jamie Dixon said to you?
Yeah, for starters, they had a big win, obviously, over Cincinnati. We're talking about 2 teams who are trying to find their way to the NCAA tournament. TCU was in a bit of a better predicament heading into that game versus Cincinnati, but they knew, in order to be able to secure that spot, they had to win on Saturday at home, and so they were able to do that over Cincy. But now, you're talking about a team that is playing their best basketball at the perfect time of the year. They're winners of 8 out of their last 9, and really, they've come a really long way since they lost their regular season opener against New Orleans, right? And so they dug themselves in an early hole. Whenever you have a rough loss like that, particularly at home, it's hard to overcome that. But Jamie Dixon and the Horned Frogs, they've kind of flown underneath the radar, but they've continued, especially as I mentioned late, to win games, especially when you look at winning on the road versus Texas Tech. I think that's what really helped propel them in their second to last game here. And you talk about some of their rebounding and how they were able to get it done, on the boards. Xavier Edmonds, a candidate for newcomer of the year. You have David Punch, who's had a really nice season as well. And so TCU, they're hot right now. And so I'm interested to see if they can pick up a couple games in the Big 12 tournament. And then, listen, they're not, in the upper echelon of Big 12 teams like a Arizona or a Houston or so on. However, they are battle tested. They played those teams. And so I think that matters when you get to the NCAA tournament, to where they've had experience going against a number of different types of teams, and I think all the Big 12 teams have, playing a superstar led team like a BYU and AJ DeBonsa, or playing a really physical team like Houston, or playing just a dominant team like Arizona. They've seen it all, and so they can adapt once they get to the NCAA tournament.
Are they, you think, the number 1 candidate to be kind of a dark horse sleeper at this Big 12 tournament, or is there somebody else that you have your eye on?
As far as the tourney goes, I'll probably say it would have to be TCU. I think if you're looking at some of the top teams, obviously I got to see where they are in that bracket. I believe they're in Arizona's top half, if I'm not mistaken. It's going to be hard to playing that many games, and trying to win a championship, since they don't have the double buys. I'll look for the Big 12 winner to come out of a team that has one of the double buys. But yeah, TCU, I have a lot of confidence in them just going into the NCAA tournament in general.
We're talking with Chancellor Johnson here. Do you feel like with Houston, a team that you're very close to, what a bizarre. I mean, who's Chase McCarty? Where did he come from? We're starting to see more of Mercy Miller. What a bizarre, weird situation here, because normally you get to the tournament and your rotation shrinks, and Kelvin Sampson's doing the exact opposite.
Yeah, it all started during that tough stretch that they had, where they had to end up playing Arizona, Iowa State, and Kansas. This is when it was in a different order, but it was that tough 3-game stretch there. And they learned that like they had to do something different. And so what they ended up doing was they ended up benching Isaiah Harwell. And so he was the 5-star freshman who came in with Kingston Flemings and Chris Snack Jr. And we all know Houston, they had some of their offensive struggles. And so Mercy Miller has always, to me, been one of their better offensive players, but it was kind of give and take with some of the defensive liability. But credit to Mercy for figuring it out on that end of the court and allowing himself to play. And he's gotten in the game and gave him some great minutes. He adds the dynamic of having a ball handler. He can shoot it. I don't know if you remember a couple games ago, it was actually versus Iowa State where he came down the lane and he punched on somebody nasty, right? So now you add a better rotational player in Mercy Miller. And then you have Chase McCarty, who Kelvin Sampson has always been high on, and you know, he was having to split those minutes with Isaiah Harwell, but he's kind of your prototypical 3-and-D type of guy, to where he's not really going to put the ball on the floor a ton. He's always going to make the right play, but they had a lot of confidence in him shooting the basketball. And so earlier on in games, in non-conference play and conference play, it just really wasn't working out. He wasn't hitting those shots until really the past couple of games. Once they made that switch, he's feeling more and more confident, and that's how he was able to knock down 6 threes. And actually was going to make a video on it. That was one of the best things that could have happened to Houston, because when I talk about teams that can get to the Final Four, when you look at the Arizonas, the Michigans, the Dukes, Houston is a team that I think can get to the Final Four, certainly, especially overall with the talent and the defense. But I thought compared to some of the national championship contenders, they were working a little bit more uphill. And I thought that in order for them to get there, they were going to have to unlock something new, a different dynamic. And around this time of the year, that's really tough to do. But then when you have a guy like Chase McCarty come off the bench and Mercy Miller, who are now giving you a bench element that you did not have before, and gives you options when other guys might not have it, or when other guys get in foul trouble, like we saw on Saturday versus Oklahoma State, that now adds a little something else to when you get to the NCAA tournament, you have a different dynamic and element that can maybe help Houston get back to the Final Four.
Talking with Chancellor Johnson here on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, exclusively on TuneIn. Chancellor, what's your take with BYU? That is a very high variance team for me. They looked really good late in the second half to close out Texas Tech at home. They have the top scorer in the country in DeBonsa, but it was Rob Wright that took over that game. And they're a 10 seed in the Big 12 tournament. So are you leaning BYU could make a run in this Big 12 tournament and even the NCAA tournament?
So let's start with the conference tournament. I'm going to say no. I think as far as runs go, it'd be nice to see them pick up a game, but they are in Houston's bracket, and so because they're a 10 seed, they have to play on Tuesday. And so, if you talk about a run, like I think by the time if they're able to win those couple of games and get to Houston on Thursday, talking about a team that's going to have, physical matchup, has played in back-to-back days. Now you're asking them to go play Houston. Good luck, right? Like that's just a tough ask for anybody, especially when you don't have those buys. And so I think it's a tough challenge for them. But I do want to see them pick up a couple games in the Big 12 tournament and have some momentum going to the NCAA tournament. Now, once they get to the NCAA tournament, any game that they play in, they will have the best player on the court 9 times out of 10 in AJ DeBonsa. And so I think that alone makes the BYU Cougars very dangerous. However, as you mentioned, they are a high variance team, and so where they've had some tough losses down the stretch. I really want to see them get that win versus Texas Tech to close the year, just because I want to see them if they could beat one of those top teams, because we just really haven't seen it a ton this season. And so I think that was really important for them to do, especially they were down early and they were able to come back, and obviously Texas Tech's a good team. I think Texas Tech is a team that can actually make a legitimate run even without JT Toppin in the NCAA tournament. And so they're going to need more from Davis Jr. He was able to have 16 points, one of his better games of the season. AJ DeBonsa didn't shoot the ball all that well, but Rob Wright III, he had a big game. That's going to be the formula. In order for them to get there, I expect DeBonsa to be a guy in March Madness, right? He's clearly built for it. But in order for them to get to where they want to go, and I think their ceiling might be capped in the second weekend of the tournament, it's going to take those three and Kiba Keita to have a real chance at this thing.
Chance, if there's one team that can make a run in this tournament that, can steal that automatic bid, do you see anybody potentially being able to do that?
No. I'm sorry. Like
maybe Baylor? Baylor, maybe? No.
I mean, if I'm being honest, right? Like, I'm trying to think. Baylor is Baylor in Arizona's bracket?
Yeah.
Yeah, no. I mean, because they have to play. They have to play on Tuesday as well. And so when you get to that third day, and you have to play Arizona, and you have to go against,
and they haven't played yet, right?
Yeah, and like that's if they get there. And so I think I'd even say this: Iowa State, for them to finish tied for third in the Big 12, but now they have the 5th seed, and so now they lose one of the bye. So now they only have a single bye, and they have to play a game, and then their quarterfinals matchup is Arizona. And so even if they are able to play Arizona and beat them, all right, cool. Now you just had to bang and bruise versus one of the most physical teams in the entire country, and then you have to play. I forgot who they would match up with, and then potentially Houston or Kansas or Texas Tech. So that's just a tough ask, and so I think it's either going to come from one of those teams that won one of those double byes.
Chancellor, I want to get your thoughts on Iowa State because they've had a little bit of a rocky finish to their season, but took care of business in the second half, at least against Arizona State. And Tamin Lipsey took the court at Hilton Coliseum for the final time on Saturday. Joshua Jefferson, post-game, was talking about how going to Iowa State was the best decision of his life. Just how does TJ Otzelberger get those guys to stay? And I know Lipsey's a local kid, but it just feels like stories like this won't exist and rarely exist now.
You're certainly right. Tamin Lipsey will go down as one of the best Cyclones ever, and obviously they've had some really great players in the course of program history. But as far as what Otz has been able to build there, it's almost like Houston in a way. It's a culture, right? When you enter Hilton Coliseum, it feels like family, and I think that means something over there, in the Midwest part of the country. And so obviously they've had a really great year. I'm excited to see what they do in the NCAA tournament. I think they're a lot like BYU in a way. They're a better team, but they have some high variances as well. They're a team that has the talent to get to a Final Four, but they're also a team that I think come round to 32, if they come in there sleepwalking, which at times beginning of the year, if you remember the beginning of conference play, where they struggled out of the gate in some games, and that certainly hurt them, right? And so Joshua Jefferson, who for the most part has played like an All-American down the stretch, I don't think he finished the year the way he would have wanted to, but he's still, as I mentioned, one of the best players in the country. So versatile, can do a lot of different things. They have some bench depth as well too, and so I'm interested to see how they play in the tournament. High variance team, and so I think I'm interested to see even going to the Big 12 tournament. If they can get to play Arizona, can they beat them, right? In a neutral setting, neutral, more so home, right? And Arizona travels well, but anytime you go to Kansas City, we know the Cyclones fanatics, they'll certainly be there and bring the juice. But I'm excited to see them play throughout this next few weeks.
Chancellor, are we going to see you up in KC later this week?
Yes, you will. I fly out tonight, so I will be there all week long. Excited to cover what's going to be a really fun tournament and then get a chance to connect with you guys as well. It'll be really awesome out there in KC.
Dude, if you're flying out tonight, you better head to the airport as soon as we wrap here.
Oh my goodness. It was obviously, I'm flying out of Houston. And so if you saw those lines yesterday, you're talking about 4 to 5 hours. So yeah, I'm going to pack up my stuff. My flight's at 8:30. And so, let's go ahead and get out there right now. And make sure
Thousands of people were missing flights over the weekend because the security line, even in TSA pre-check, was over 4 hours.
Yep. And so listen, I don't have wealth like you guys, so I'm just a regular regular check-in. So unfortunately, I don't have TSA pre-check.
No TSA pre, or
you don't have the luxury experience.
I'm just a regular guy, man. One day, hopefully, maybe when I get around you guys this week in KC, I can just touch you guys, and maybe it'll rub off on me a little bit. You know what I mean? But until then, I just gotta get in line with the regular people.
There we go. All right, seriously, don't miss that flight. Can't wait to see you up in Kansas City later on.
See you, bud.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me on, guys.
That is the Chancellor Johnson here on Big 12 Today. Heard exclusively on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios. A lot to unpack with Chancellor. Cannot wait to catch up with him up in Kansas City. But coming up next, we head into the NCAA tournament. We look ahead. Bubbles are bursting all over the country. Bubble teams went 0-9 on Saturday, the latest bracketology, and we have one stat that shows parity in college basketball
is dead.
It's dead. No upsets. That's coming up next. This is Big 12 Radio, heard exclusively on TuneIn.
For him as he's had in some time. And off we go here from Fort Worth, Texas.
Of this TCU team.
10 double-doubles in his last 12. He is totally turned his season around is Edmonds. Chom, low post, good turnaround hook.
Now, that was an example of patience, right? They dealt with the initial defense, swing, post entry, easy deuce. That's what you got to see more of if you're Cincinnati. You've got to withstand that first wave of intensity from TCU.
Here, backdoor, got the reverse.
And both these teams potentially could find themselves there. That's why they are giving it their all here today.
Exhibit A, look at the bodies on the deck. Ripped away by Punch. Up ahead, Pierre. Double comes on Chom, he loses it.
Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up.
Race for the basketball. Great hustle by Punch. And he feeds Robinson. And he has been such a good find for Jamie Dixon. And over the last 3 weeks, as we talked about, Edmonds is playing about as well as anybody in the conference. This time it's Pierre. Yes! Timeout, Cincinnati.
Playing with this level of intensity, that's a talent. And they have it in spades.
They took the lead at the end of the first half. They've had it ever since. Pierre cutting to the rim. Final seconds tick off. But TCU, they better start dusting off those dancing shoes. This one all but puts them in the dance. 73-63.
Back here on Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio. Heard exclusively on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios. We'll be live up in KC Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. We'll have a 1-hour pregame special leading up to the Big 12 championship game, which you can hear right here on Big 12 Radio at 6 Eastern, 5 o'clock Central. We'll be on the full hour leading up to tip-off as we take a look at the NCAA tournament, potential bubbles bursting over the weekend. Cody Nespor, the digital content producer at Golden Blue Nation, joins us here in about 15 minutes to break down West Virginia women winning the Big 12 tournament. We'll touch on the men as well as they pick up win number 17 and go 9-9 in the Big 12 after their victory on Friday over UCF. Speaking of UCF, they have slid to part of the last 4 byes, according to Joe Lunardi's latest bracketology, in which he has the last 4 in Santa Clara, SMU, VCU, and Auburn. He has no Big 12 teams part of the first 4 out. He has Cincinnati as the 5th team out, part of his next 4 to miss the field. TCU he's got as a 9 seed in his latest bracketology, which features 11 SEC teams, 9 from the Big 10, 8 from the ACC. What's your biggest beef with the latest bracketology?
Well, look, I mean, Auburn has really, it feels like, lost their way out. You know, I get that they've had a really tough schedule, but you got to win more games. Like, a tough schedule should not be enough to get you in. It's ridiculous. Also, congratulations to Miami of Ohio, 31-0.
That was an incredible game on Saturday.
Yeah,
the end of that.
They had not won at Ohio in a long time. It was an incredible finish to an incredible season, and congratulations to Miami of Ohio for finishing a 31-0 season off. I think they should be dancing regardless of what happened to the MAC championship. But look, they've dominated the field in that conference, so there's no reason to think that they won't continue to do so. And yeah, I think it's justified, though I'm upset that Auburn still finds itself in. You know, I don't know that Cincinnati's done enough. I don't know that West Virginia's done enough in order to get bids, so I can't really make cases for those programs in the Big 12 right now.
So Cincinnati is currently 47th in the net. They're the team that if the Big 12 were to get a 9th bid, far and away the number 1 candidate, in my opinion. They are 3-11 in Quad 1. That's what's holding them back, and they're only 3 games above 500. They're number 42 in KenPom. Okay, their KenPom rating is skyrocketing. They're ranked ahead of SMU. They're ranked ahead of VCU, 2 teams that Joe Lunardi has as part of his last 4 in. Cincinnati's rated higher in the KenPom, and in the net rankings, they're only 3 spots behind VCU. So if VCU were to get upset somewhere in the A10 tournament, that would be their 8th loss. They only have 2 Quad 1 wins. I think Cincinnati could potentially leapfrog them, but there's 3 or 4 teams in front of them that are also trying to do the same. The one team that is currently in the field that I don't think should be outside of Auburn is SMU. SMU is 8-10 in the ACC. They don't have 20 regular season wins. Their KenPom is hovering around 45. They're number 40, or number 38, I should say, in the net rankings. But they've lost 4 in a row, and some bad losses. They've lost to Cal. They got beat by 20 at Stanford. Then they turned around and they lost at home to Miami. And then they just lost over the weekend by 13 to a Florida State team that is below 500 overall on the season. And they're still in the field.
Yeah, that one doesn't make any sense to me. And again, shouldn't how you're playing at the end of the year factor in? Because Cincinnati's been very hot. Now, granted, UCF has not, so maybe it's a good case for UCF not being included. But, yeah, I mean, I think you can poke holes in Auburn. You can poke holes in SMU. You know, I get, again, the Auburn side of things where you have a really difficult schedule. But let's factor in how good of a conference the Big 12 is, and the Big 10 for that matter. Those 2 conferences are far and away above the ACC and the SEC. So, you know, that amount of bids for those conferences when they're not as good, top to bottom, doesn't make any sense to me.
And keep in mind, Joe Lunardi, he's not perfect. He misses a couple of teams every year. And he has this incredible, I hit on 96% of teams that get in the field. Well, really, the only ones that matter are the teams that are on that cut line. Like everybody else, we can all predict are going to be in the field.
Right.
And he does miss a couple every year, so can't wait to see what those teams look like this year. All right, what is the number one stat that shows parity is dead when it comes to the NCAA tournament in college basketball?
Yeah, this is actually remarkable. Okay, so in the history of the Ken Palm rankings, okay, that dates back to 2002. But Ken Palm, when he started publishing his stats, retroactively went back to 1998. So basically from 1998 to 2026, okay? There have been 12 teams with a plus 35 net ranking. So net rating, excuse me. So, basically the difference between their offensive efficiency and defensive efficiency. How many points you score per 100 possessions, how many points you give up per 100 possessions. So 12 total teams since 1998 have been plus 35, at least plus 35. All 12 of them have made the Final Four. Okay? Now, 9 of those 12 were plus 35 when the season ended. Okay? So
Before the tournament.
Pre-tournament, 9 of 9 made the Final Four. Okay? All 4 teams that made the Final Four last year finished the regular season at plus 35. So if you're following along, that means between 1998 and 2025, there were 9 teams that made the Final Four that were plus 35 in the net rating when the season ended, and 4 of those occurred all in 2025. So 5 went between 1998 and 2025, and all 4 last year, all 4 Final Four teams were plus 35 in the net rating. There are 4 teams right now that are plus 35 in the net rating. Duke, Michigan, Arizona, Florida. All plus 35. In fact, Duke is at plus 40.66, which is the greatest net rating of all time, as long as Ken Palm's been tracing. So, I just threw a lot of numbers at you. But if you're paying attention, if the season ends, conference tournaments end, and all 4 of those teams are still plus 35 in the net rating, and then all 4 of those teams make the Final Four, it'll be 2 consecutive years of Final Four teams all making the Final Four, being plus 35 at the end of the season. There had been 5 total teams between 98 and 2025. And this year could be 8 for 8. So what that says is teams are more dominant now than ever before. When there are 5 total teams between 1998 and 2025 that hit that number before the tournament started, and 4 teams did it last year, almost as many as there were over a two-decade period of time, and then back-to-back years it happens again, parity is dead. Parity is dying. Again, we'll see what happens if all 4 of those teams make the Final Four, but so far every team that's finished plus 35 has made the Final Four. And most of those teams have won the national championship. It was just impossible last year because all 4 made it.
Right.
Pretty wild.
That is. So 8 teams in the last 2 years. If all 4 1 seeds, which I think it's pretty clear who the 1 seeds are, if all 4 make the Final Four again, and we have back-to-back seasons with 4 number 1 seeds.
That all ended the season plus 35 in net rating, which would make it 16 for 16.
And that would be the first time ever that we've had back-to-back tournaments where all 4 1 seeds made it. And it would only be the 3rd time, I believe, ever.
Yeah, 2008 when Kansas won, it was the first time it happened.
Yeah. And somebody on this show, I don't remember who, but somebody was saying like 3 weeks ago that Florida would rise and be the 4th 1 seed.
Was that you?
You remember that?
Did you say that?
Somebody say that? I can't remember.
Yeah, Lee, I don't remember that. But
they're 25-6. But do you think, like, I know the numbers are there, everything you just said, do you think the gap between those 1 seeds and everybody else is that big when you watch these teams, or is there more parity in terms of, remember last year, like there were barely any upsets. Are the 2 seeds or the 3? I think that's where the difference is this year's the 2 and the 3s. And I saw something, I don't have it in front of me, the other day that backed up that claim with data that the 2s and 3s were better this year than they were last year. which means maybe we get some different blood in the Final Four. But if it's back-to-back 1 seeds, all 1 seeds, that'll be nutty.
Yeah, I mean, and according to the Ken Palm rankings, yes, the answer is yes, they are better. So going back to last year again, pre-tournament, you had 4 teams that were plus 35 in the net rating. Tennessee was 5th at 30.93. Alabama was 6th at plus 30.34. Now, this is after the tournament, so those numbers may have risen. But pre-tournament right now, 5 is Illinois at 32.67. Yep. Houston is 6th at 32.49. So, yeah, that's 2 teams already with a net rating higher than the 5 and 6 from last year. So I would say that there's probably less of a chance this year because of how much better the 2 seeds are with Houston, Illinois. Even Iowa State's at plus 30, plus 29.96. Purdue as well. So I think it's less likely to happen this year, but we'll see.
I would love to see a potential South region, which is how Joe Lunardi has it mapped out. Now, he doesn't spend a ton of time seeding these teams in terms of what he thinks the committee will do. It's more who gets in. So the seedings usually are all over the map. But right now he has Florida in the South as the 1 seed and Houston in the South as the 2 seed, which means they would play each other potentially in the Elite Eight in Houston, in Houston's backyard, just a couple of blocks from their campus at the Toyota Center. That would be an incredible matchup.
Well, and it feels also like Florida-Houston in the Elite Eight in Houston, and that, of course, a rematch of the national championship game. And it'll be the second time Florida will be getting Houston in the state of Texas because the national championship was in San Antonio.
Man, that would be awesome. All right. We quizzed Chancellor Johnson. The Big 12 is going to be releasing their all-conference honors later today. I just threw this in there, and I can go first. Would love to hear your starting 5. The Big 12 is going to have 10 players on the All-Big 12 first team. But if you were putting together an all Big 12 team of 5 players, the 5 guys that you would start. Okay, for me, it starts with Christian Anderson at the point. Okay, 19 points per game, nearly 8 assists per game, shot 43% this year from 3. He's 3rd nationally in assists per game. My 2 would be Braden Burries. Thought about Peterson here, but I can't reward a guy who missed as much time as he did. But when he's healthy and he's on the floor, he's one of the 5 best players, no doubt. But I've got Braden Burries at the 2, the freshman from Arizona, who ended up leading the team in scoring. He's averaging 16 points per game. He just went off over the weekend, scored a career high in their win over Colorado. Then I have A.J. DiBonsa at the 3, the nation's leading scorer, going to be probably the number 1 overall pick. Enough said there. At the 4, I'd still have J.T. Toppin. Even with the injury, leading the Big 12 in double-doubles and rebounds and had that 31-point showing on the road at Arizona, I'd still have Toppin. But then my 5-man, I'd go Flory. I'd go Flory Badunga, the sophomore for KU. He led the Big 12 and was 2nd in the country in blocks per game. He just shuts down the entire lane, averaged almost 10 rebounds. He nearly averaged a double-double on the season. Fastest Jayhawk to record 100 blocks in program history. I'd put Flory at the 5.
I like your list. And of course, you're going off of, filling every position. I'm just going 5 best players. And I'm going to go Christian Anderson, Kingston Flemings, A.J. DiBonsa, J.T. Toppin, and Milan Momcilovic. That's my 5.
Momcilovic?
Yeah, I mean, what did he end up shooting on the season from 3?
That's a great find. He's the nation's best shooter. Like 50% from 3. It's insane.
Yeah, with Christian Anderson and Milan Momcilovic plus Kingston Flemings running the point, like good luck stopping me. And A.J. DiBonsa still plus Toppin inside. I think my 5 beats your 5.
I can't wait to see these guys in the tournament. Cannot wait. Cody Nespor, the digital content producer at Gold and Blue Nation, writes for West Virginia, will join us coming up next. Huge win on the women's side. They claim the Big 12 championship. We are powered by Modelo, heard exclusively on TuneIn. You're watching us on Big 12 Studios.
Brett Smith, Tyler Kump, Justin Shamian are officials, and we are underway in Stillwater.
And really, it's really important for Oklahoma State to push the ball up, because setting up against these guys in the half, that's a long ball.
Anthony Roy from the golf course here at Oklahoma State.
That's easy for me to say.
Got to be careful here. We're at the scorer's table, so they can hear you as Roy hits another deep three. Barring a big run next week in Kansas City.
If they win the Big 12, that's going to be a dunk. If they win the Big 12, it changes things. Right.
McCarty looking for his third three, and he's got it.
Boy, he's been a real help off the bench today.
Miller goes right by Coleman, and the foul. Mercy Miller with a big play. Steve Lutz is saying that you stop the game for Flemings, he should have to come out of the game.
That's he's got a point there.
Now Flemings for three. Oh, wow. And Steve Lutz just eyeing the referee. McCarty from the corner. It's good. His fourth triple, and that's a new career high for the redshirt freshman.
Puts it in.
McCarty fakes the three, looking for his sixth of the day, and he's got it. 5 seconds to go. Houston down 13 in the first half, and they storm back for a 7-point victory.
Back here on Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio, we are brought to you, the full-time fan, by Modelo. Here exclusively on TuneIn, Big 12 Radio. This is the Big 12 Conference. This is a different league, and Cody Nesper, the digital content producer at Gold and Blue Nation, joins us from Morgantown to recap West Virginia's win on the women's side. They take down TCU in the Big 12 championship game. Hey, Cody, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, guys.
Just what's the number one overall storyline when it comes to West Virginia? We played some audio from Mark Kellogg, their head coach, earlier. I know this was an incredibly emotional tournament for him and the reasons behind it, with his mother passing back in December and being from the state of Missouri. But in terms of the team and what you saw during this tournament, what was your number one takeaway?
It just feels like this is a team that's kind of reached its potential. In the 3 years under Kellogg, there've been humps that they've been trying to get over. One of them is winning the Big 12. One of them is winning in the tournament. One of them's hosting March Madness games and then making a Sweet 16. This feels like the first kind of hurdle they're getting over in his third year here. And I think that was part of the emotion last night, is they've been so close to so many of those things the last 2 years, but fallen just short, whether it was in Iowa City or in North Carolina last year, or to TCU in the conference tournament last year. It just kind of feels like I said, the first hurdle the program's kind of getting over.
Yeah, and I mean, how historic is this, considering TCU wins the Big 12, and it had been, I think, one seeds were 11-0 in the Big 12 championship.
Right. Yeah, and it's the Mountaineers only had one other one, 2017, when Tiny Martin went nuclear in the tournament. So it's a big deal. I mean, people were out at the Coliseum at 1:30 in the morning to welcome the team back.
Wow.
I think they were out at like 12:45 to welcome at the airport. So it's a big deal. The fan base is super engaged with this women's team. It really, they have been for these 3 years under Mark, but yeah, last night people were excited.
So what does this mean in terms of West Virginia and their potential seeding in the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, it's people are now putting them as a 4 seed, which means they would host games. They went into the tournament as a 5. When they made the championship game, I personally thought that should make them a 4. If you're the second best team in the Big 12, I think you would be deserving to host. But with the win, I think it has to make them. You can't have one Big 12 team host and 3 or 4 Big 10 teams like that. That it doesn't work like that. So I think the feeling now is that they will host, and that the Coliseum's going to be rocking here in a couple weekends.
Jordan Harrison with a phenomenal tournament. Is she the best player on the team?
Oh, by far. And if it's not even necessarily a talent thing. I mean, spiritual leader, strategic leader, vocal leader. I mean, just everything you want in a player to lead your basketball team. On top of it, she's a fantastic point guard and obviously the best defender in the Big 12. And, if you ask Mark Kellogg, he'd tell you she's the best defender in the country. And she just, this tournament really captured it. She just does every little thing for the Mountaineers, every single game, whether she scores 10 points like in the first round or 21 like in the championship game.
Sydney Shaw has been a really cool story. She's a sharpshooter for West Virginia. Ultimately, the style of play that West Virginia, plays with, that ball pressure, up and down, full 40 minutes, how far can that take them in the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, I think Sydney Shaw is a great example of, she came here from Auburn and she was kind of just a spot-up three-point shooter, but then Kellogg molds them into elite defenders. And how far that can take them, this year is different. I think the roster is constructed much better this year to where they don't necessarily have to win on their ball pressure. I don't think they won on their ball pressure last night. TC didn't turn it over a lot. They didn't get sped up on offense a lot. But the roster this year is constructed to where they can win a bunch of different ways. They can win inside. They can win shooting threes. They can win they will turn teams over 30 times and just win that way. And I think that's what's different this year compared to the last two, where the last 2 years they had to turn you over. They had to turn you over and score in transition, and the press really had to affect the opponents. But this year, there's just a lot of different ways they can win. So I think it makes it easier matchup-wise to whoever they would get seeded against.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Mark Campbell's made it to a Elite Eight.
Kellogg.
Excuse me, Kellogg. Yeah.
I don't believe he had a real deep run when he was at Stephen F. Austin before this.
Okay, so how far has he made it with West Virginia? For some reason, I was remembering like an Elite Eight game with them, but no.
Yeah, they've made it to the second round each of the last 2 years.
Each of the last 2 years. Okay. So, I mean, how important is it for him to get past that first weekend, or is it not? Do you think what he's done so far is,
No, I mean, that's something about Mark. Like, he's not shy about their goals. So coming into the year, he was like, we want to win the Big 12, we want to host tournament games, and we want to go to a Sweet 16. Right? And it's like, okay, check. And the last one is just a Sweet 16. This is a program for as much, success and pretty steady success the Mountaineers have had. They've only made one Sweet 16. It was in 1992.
Wow.
And the tournament was so small back then, they only had to win one game. So, it's a big game, or it's a big deal. Like, and assuming the games are here in Morgantown, winning both of those on your home court to go to the second ever Sweet 16, like, that means a ton. Like, that, if you thought there was emotion last night, like, that would be an emotional day for the team, for Mark, for the fan base, for the community up here. That's a huge deal.
West Virginia went 14-3 this season at home at the Coliseum in Morgantown. 27-6 overall. They went 14-4 in the Big 12 regular season and claimed the Big 12 Women's Basketball Championship. All right, Cody, over on the men's side, the West Virginia men got a nice win on Friday. Looks like they're probably still going to be out of the NCAA tournament, but do you get the sense that this team will play in the postseason? They'll probably have an NIT offer, or maybe that other tournament that's out in Vegas that the name is escaping me right now. Does it seem like they want to extend their season? What's your feeling there?
Yeah, that college basketball crown out in Vegas.
That's it.
I know it's smaller this year. I'm not sure how many Big 12 teams go. I think maybe two. Yeah, I do. It's the rotation is mostly seniors. It's almost all seniors, frankly. I do kind of get the feeling like they don't want to be done in Kansas City. Like this is a close group. They want to play together. They want to play as many games as they can together. They don't want to just, shut the door on their college careers. And frankly, like the way they play defense, they believe that they're going to go down to Kansas City and win the tournament and go to the NCAA tournament.
Cody, thank you so much for your time. Cody Nesper, digital content producer at Golden Blue Nation, joining us here on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. Congrats to West Virginia, the women's team winning the Big 12 championship, looking to be in a really good spot to host an NCAA tournament site. Cody, thanks again.
Yeah, absolutely, guys.
Cody Nesper, digital content producer at Golden Blue Nation, joining us here on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. West Virginia, like I noted, they went 14-3 at home. If they're hosting the first two rounds, they're going to play a tough opponent in that second game, probably a 5 seed in the NCAA tournament, but this team is rolling, especially when you look at what they've done lately. They had a scare from Colorado in the Big 12 tournament, but, I mean, they have wins over Iowa State. They have wins over Baylor, all in the last month since February 1st.
Yeah, well said. This is as impressive of a win as you can have, and between Mark Campbell and Mark Kellogg, it's hard to figure out which is which. No, I'm kidding. But the fact that one seeds have been 11-0 in women's basketball traditionally doesn't have a ton of upsets. I'd say that's fairly significant, and avoiding going 0-3 against TCU in this season. I mean, just many things going in the way of West Virginia. Impressive stuff.
Special thanks to Cody Nesper, our West Virginia digital content producer at Golden Blue Nation. Coming up next, we pivot over to college football. So we're real close to starting our Modelo Spring Road Trip. Another team today. That'll be at the top of the hour, touring Big 12 country. Today we head out to Fort Worth and highlight the TCU Horned Frogs, who have won 9 games back-to-back seasons. Sonny Dykes, the TCU football coach, will join us around 9:20 Central Time here on the show. But coming up next, college football. There was a meeting of the minds over the weekend. A bunch of important people, including Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark. What went down in our reaction is up next. He's Ari, I'm James. This is Big 12 Radio.
Iowa State at home in the white uniforms, Arizona State on the road in the black uniforms. TJ Otzelberger said he has worked his tail off to be the guy this season. Drop ball from Momcilovic into Buchanan with the two-hand flush.
The heart and soul of this Iowa State Cyclone team.
And now he's got the steal, doing what he does best, flashing behind the back to Nate Heisey. To the largest lead of the day for Iowa State, up 9. This is Odom circling through the defense. Everybody left him, and he knocks down a mid-range jumper.
Nice job by Lipsy blowing that handoff off. Blowing it up.
Johnson slicing through the 2 defenders and squeezes through for the bucket. Odom, good feed to Bayous and streaking down the floor for a fast break 2.
He can make that.
Jefferson, nobody around him either, splashes in the 3. Odom, pick and roll with Chuck. Jefferson slapped it away. Lipsy up to Jefferson and take off.
See if Arizona State will start to trap some of these ball screens and these exchanges.
Lipsy lobs, Plata inside, wrestling through contact, +1. A dominant second half for the number 6 team in the country on Tamin Lipsy's senior day. The Cyclones pull away and win it by 21 over Arizona State.
This is Big 12 Today here on Big 12 Radio. He's Ari Timken on social at RE Sports. I'm James Westling on social at James Westling. T-Chains, Taman Turner producing on the audio side. We're also on Big 12 Studios. You might be watching us there where Anthony Smith runs the show. We're going to be up in KC for the Big 12 men's basketball tournament. We get in on Wednesday, live shows Thursday, Friday, and a 1-hour pregame special on Saturday. Modelo fan rule number 25. Tournament week is a lifestyle, not a viewing option. It's a lifestyle.
Damn right. And that starts this week. I mean, it's about the clothes you wear, the food, everything's about planning for the tournament.
You wear, obviously, at the front of the list.
Come on. Do you even tournament, bro? Do you know how to tournament? See, are you a full-time fan, James?
I'm a full-time fan.
Okay. So it is a lifestyle. You got to figure out what clothes you're wearing, what food you're going to intake, right? I mean, just so many decisions are tied directly to tournament watching, tournament viewing, tournament consuming. And I think this week is so important because it's kind of like it's the warm-up, it's the appetizer, if you will, for the big show next week. So you got to kind of treat it like an actual tournament week, if you will. Kind of get you ready.
I'm super stressed about the tournament.
Okay.
I'm excited.
How can I help you?
Very excited, but also very stressed.
How can I help with that?
So this trip basically has 4 full-time jobs for yours truly. Number 1, cover the tournament.
Yes.
Number 2, hang with you guys. Number 3, quality time with my wife. Number 4, my kids are also starting their spring break, so they're going to be in the area. So spending time with my children. I mean, I need a depth chart for this week.
Yeah.
In KC. It's basically a 4-team round robin.
You're bringing your wife on a business trip.
Okay. Business / I've been gone a lot. She loves KC. My parents are there. Tournament. But didn't you bring your family last year? All right. This guy.
It's just a weird thing to bring your wife on a business trip, isn't it?
The guy who brought wife and kids, the whole gang last year.
Once
and
is
I
not.
take that personally.
Yeah, no, I know you did, which is why I said it.
Q39, that's a big deal. Have to hit that spot.
Just get ready for the guilt trips from me.
Exactly.
Every time you say no, I'm going to be like, oh, wife had to come on the business trip.
That's why you're my number 1 stressor.
This is why we don't bring wives on the business trip. There's a clear DNBW. Do not bring wives.
So yeah, I don't know.
Love it. You're like, I travel a lot. Does your wife know what you do?
I don't know how that's gonna work. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Maybe you should do what you do.
Fine. Everything's fine. Everything's fine.
I'm gone every weekend. Yeah, calling games.
It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. I'm just traveling around the country.
You're so upset at me right now. It's great.
No, this is cool. It's all good. It's all good. This isn't adding to the stress in any way, shape,
Good.
or form.
Honestly, it was my intention, so I'm glad to have added to it. And I'm gonna act like your wife on this trip, where I'm gonna be very upset and disappointed if you don't socialize with Taman and myself the entire trip. If there are any outs or any no's,
please do. That's what I need. 2 wives.
I'll be sending you texts.
I've got my work wife and my actual wife.
I'll be sending pictures. All kinds of stuff.
All right, so there was this big college football meeting of the minds over the weekend. They met for about 2 hours, which feels like the meeting could have been longer, personally, when you've got that many people in one room. President Trump met with a whole laundry list of characters. We've got Nick Saban there. We've got Greg Sankey from the SEC. We've got Ted Cruz in the House. We've got Utah President Taylor Randall in the House. We've got the commish, Brett Yormark. No student athletes. Essentially, this is, what are they calling this? I called it Meeting of the Minds because I don't know what the actual title was. It was just a meeting between all these important people trying
Saving college sports.
Save college sports. That's it. From everything I can gather, it was a meeting where we just kind of griped about all the issues in college sports. President Trump was a little bit confused about how we actually got here, and now he's saying that there's going to be another executive order coming within the next 7 days that's going to address all of these points that were brought up at the meeting. But what's your number 1 takeaway?
great political theater here. Just a whole bunch of nothing. 2 hours of politicians and administrators and commissioners meeting and complaining and threatening and
a lot of threats.
I mean, yet it seemed like the room was just a bunch of clueless, delusional people, with all due respect, because basically President Trump said he's going to issue an executive order today putting the toothpaste back in the tube. You can't really put toothpaste back in a tube, but Trump is going to do it with an executive order that will 100% face legal scrutiny. And, maybe the most amazing part about this whole thing is this all centers on a Supreme Court decision that went 9-0 against the NCAA.
Back in 2021.
Which was actually a group of Supreme Court justices, many of which were nominated to the Supreme Court by President Donald Trump.
Yeah. And he asked, like, well, when did this happen? How did this happen? And somebody said what you just said right there, and he just threw his hands up and said, well, that's the Supreme Court. Life's too short.
Notre Dame athletic director Pete Bavacqua, had a very pointed, threatening comments about that the industry, college football at large, is a runaway financial train consuming more resources from Olympic and women's sports. So basically, we just got a whole bunch of threatening of Olympic and women's sports. Like, hey, we're spending so much money on football and it's become a runaway train that it's not sustainable. So can you please help us save ourselves from ourselves? Like what Pete Bavacqua was describing is capitalism. Hey, we're spending so much money on football, so you need to create laws so that we can still spend that much money on football, but spend less so that we can reappropriate that money for Olympic sports and women's sports, because otherwise they're going to go away. And I'm sorry, I can't do anything about it. Like, we can't stop spending on football. And so we need laws in order to help us stop spending on football. Otherwise, women's basketball and Olympic sports and women's sports are going away. It's ridiculous. It's completely delusional. It's not really having any sense of what the real world is going on right now. And again, like, yeah, you've just explained capitalism. Like, you have to budget, and then you've got to spend within your budget. Otherwise, you'll take on too much debt. You won't be able to make it work. You won't be able to pay the bills. And I get that, like, college sports isn't an actual business, but it's becoming more and more like that. And the reality is the Supreme Court dictated that you have to be run more like that. The only way to fix this is with a collective bargaining agreement. It's not going to be an executive order or a room full of administrators and commissioners and athletic directors complaining that it's going to solve this. The only thing that's going to solve this is collective bargaining. And so I don't know how long it's going to take, but you got to get there. And at some point they're going to get there, I would think. But I don't, like, that's it. There's no magic pill. There's no executive order. There's no law that you can pass that's going to fix this. Now, there was on the other side of town in D.C., there were a couple of legislators, one on the Republican side, one on the Democrat side, that have come up with a bill that will allow for conferences to come together to pool their TV rights, and will basically allow for a quick amendment to the Sports Broadcasting Act of 1961, which is what Cody Campbell has been asking for. So, I mean, that was maybe the most substantial thing to come out of D.C. this weekend. It had nothing to do with this roundtable that was going on across town. But again, that just takes care of one aspect of this. They're looking for a catch-all that helps with, the financial confines, with all of the specifics that need to be collectively bargained. Does that cover it?
Yes. So you had over 50 people in one room with the president at the head of the table. 2 hours set aside for this meeting. Who's going to speak? Like, that's...
Well, and very few people spoke.
It's too many people.
Yeah. Well, not only that, but you mentioned this at the top, and that was there was no representation whatsoever from any of the student athletes, which was very much that was done on purpose. Mm-hmm. And again, just kind of speaks to how far away some of these decision makers are from being close to reality. Like, they're so far moved from reality. And again, with all due respect, like, open up the door, go outside, see what's really happening, because this needs to be collectively bargained. The Supreme Court basically said that, and the fact that you invited all of these people in to be a part of this roundtable and no student athletes speaks to how much you don't understand about what's going on right now.
And the the meeting that took place on the other side of D.C. that is kind of the other story that's happening alongside the White House roundtable was that meeting that happened here in Dallas early last week, and then that Sports Broadcasting Act fight. And there was a private gathering that was last Tuesday in Dallas. It included some high-level trustees, like some mega boosters, at least 2 university presidents representing TCU and Texas Tech right here from the Big 12. This was Smash Sports, this private capital-backed group, which is former ESPN and Walt Disney executives. They were pitching their plan more quietly, Project Rudy, to university presidents, political figures, ADs. And to your point, kind of the same goal as Cody Campbell's, just doing it in a different way. And that's where that bill subsided from, the Senate bill that came out of it.
Yeah, the SAFE Act, which if passed, and again, no bill so far in the 5 years since the NIL transfer portal era have made it out of committee. So a long way to go for any of these bills, but if it does end up passing, it'll be very interesting to see if the group of 6 pools their TV rights together and what that would mean on an annual basis. And if the Big 12 and ACC were to engage in pooling rights together, we know that the SEC and the Big 10 wouldn't. But would the Big 12 and the ACC, and if you're the Big 12, would you? Because that could effectively save the ACC. But if you don't, then the ACC is effectively DOA. So if you're the Big 12, do you let the ACC bleed out, or do you give the ACC a lifeline? Would be very interesting to see if this passes.
Very much so. So is this Project Rudy? I'm trying to find out if that is what was proposed at this super secret meeting that took place here in Dallas on Tuesday.
I'm not sure. I do know that Republican Senator Eric Schmidt from Missouri and Democrat Senator Maria Cantwell from Washington have agreed on a legislation called the College Sports Competitiveness Act, also known as the SAFE Act, expected to be filed next week. It would amend the Sports Broadcasting Act 1961. Sorry, it's similar to the SAFE Act, but it's called the College Sports Competitiveness Act.
Okay, so I'm looking at
this one. Doesn't have a fun
Project Rudy.
Yeah.
Ross Dellinger reported from Yahoo Sports, called it the by far more important meeting of the week. And apparently these are kind of tied together. So board members from 15 schools attended. Smash Sports presented their framework to pool all of college football's media rights. So there it is. Selling all rights together could more than double the total value distributed compared to the current competitive market. This was not the first time Smash Sports had pitched this. It was just a little more extensive, a little more in-depth, and no decisions were made. There was no vote or anything like that. But it's a full Super League structure with 70 teams. It's a 70-team model, which eliminates the group of 5 games almost entirely. It's a private equity investment, which is kind of the backdrop, but it would require SEC and Big Ten buy-in, which as of now, neither conference is even close to being willing to go in to this current type of model.
Yeah, and I would imagine that if it passes, the group of 6 will come together to pool their rights. But here's what's interesting. Would the NCAA lobby for or against this? And would there be maybe SEC, Big 10, Big 12, ACC lobbies lobbying against it? It'll be very interesting to see. And again, this is just one aspect, right? Like, so we're just talking about pooling TV rights. Forget about all the other stuff, including, creating guidelines to govern,
distributing those TV rights. And
well, not only that, but like a salary cap and tampering enforcement and things that need to be collectively bargained that, again, administrators came together to kind of complain about and talk about how those need to be fixed. Otherwise, we're going to be losing women's sports and Olympic sports.
He's already.
By the way, what a condescending threat to make. It's like, oh, okay, great idea, Pete. Like, I know that on a balance sheet that women's sports and Olympic sports may not mean a ton. But, like, when you look at the growth and importance of many of these sports, like, these are strategic investments that are going to help your schools. Like, I'd imagine there'd be a huge cost if Notre Dame up and decided tomorrow we're just going to play men's basketball and football, or just football.
Yeah.
Like there'd be a huge cost to that, and like the attractiveness of your university goes down, the attractiveness of to certain students, having certain female or Olympic athletes on campus and their profiles, like many of those have their own, are their own entity unto themselves. Like so, it's very short-sighted, and it's just it's an empty threat, is what it is.
Well said. He's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. All right, coming up next, we head into our Modelo Spring Football Preview Series. We are highlighting the TCU Horned Frogs today. Thank you, Tim. Back-to-back 9-win seasons. We'll talk with Sonny Dykes here in about 20 minutes. That's next on Big 12 Radio.
Edwin Young. And then the home white unis. The Buffs control the opening tip.
Well, they're doing what you have to do against Arizona. They are attacking the glass.
Nice run to Pete.
All spare and love and war, Rich. What a pass.
Inside, Koa Pete continues a pristine night for him. A 6-point lead for Colorado. They're 4 for 8 from 3, but only 3 for 12 from 2-point range. And they turn it over there.
And that's what you can't do. If you want to maintain a lead, you can't turn it over.
Burries, aggressive as always.
So that's a good sign. You said, well, how is Colorado going to come out of a locker room at halftime? I think that's a good indication.
How about CU? 5 2-point field goals and 6.
The pull-up along the baseline, it's there.
Burries, and that's the first 3 of the night. Here's Braden Burries. First field goal for the Cats in 4 minutes, and it's an and 1 opportunity. Let the biggest dude on the floor shoot one up. It's his second 3 tonight. And there's Koa Pete chipping in a game-high 23 for number 10 in blue, Koa Pete. Concerned about complacency tonight. And they have gotten haymakers thrown at them. But there's Braden Burries giving Arizona the lead. Arizona wins their regular season finale, and with that, this Arizona Wildcats team goes down in history. The most regular season wins in Arizona Wildcats history.
Back here on Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio. Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio. Powered by Modelo. Modelo fan rule number 31. There is no off season. There is
no off and off season. There's only research.
Research. That's what we do. All right, TCU is the team we're highlighting today.
Let's hop aboard the Caravan and make a quick pit stop in Fort Worth before we get on our way back elsewhere across the country. Thank you.
That is so loud. I love it.
Because
all right.
the off season, there is no such thing as off season. There's only research.
And we research these teams.
Because we are Modelo full-time fans. Cheers to you, Modelo full-time fans, bringing us the spring caravan.
All right, so TCU back-to-back 9-win seasons. That's the foundation. They actually finished ranked in the final AP poll. They were number 25. They went 5-4 in the Big 12, back-to-back 9-win seasons, the first time TCU has done that in over a decade.
It's interesting, too, because I was almost a bit surprised that they were fourth in the league. Like, I saw the standings, I went through the season, and it's bizarre because it feels like, oh, they were fourth? They won 9 games? And look, they were a preseason darling. And I think there were a few opportunities they had to be in the conversation for the Big 12 championship, and that's maybe why they were kind of disappointing despite winning 9 games.
Well, remember they got boat raced by BYU. And then the next week they went on the road and beat Houston and then beat USC in the bowl game to get to those 9 wins. So the big loss is Josh Hoover, the quarterback, transferring to Indiana. They lose a lot of guys on their defense to the NFL. Caleb Elam's Orr graduated.
Nnamdi Obiezer, who we just saw at the draft combine as well.
Bud Clark is gone. Ken Seals, who was the quarterback for the bowl game, he's graduated. Joseph Manjack has graduated. Eric McAllister, who was first in the Big 12 in receiving yards a season ago. So they have holes to fill. A ton of movement in terms of the coaching staff, even though you'll hear from Sonny Dykes here in about 15 minutes and what he says about the new offensive coordinator. He claims it's not going to look that much different. But I think the headliner for me is, what does this offense look like with the new offensive coordinator, and how does Harvard transfer Jaden Craig fit this offense? This kid's massive, 6'3", 230 pounds, Harvard's all-time leading passer and touchdowns tosser. He was an FCS All-American, a really low career interception rate of less than 2%, but that's a big jump from FCS to Big 12 football.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of a brand-new team. You know, Gordon Samus steps in as the new offensive coordinator, and we'll hear from Sonny Dykes and ask Sonny about what he expects this offense to look like. But I'd imagine he likes the way to look in terms of, you know, having some of the same air raid principles that he's always had, mixing it in with, you know, a focus on running the football. Yeah, and then Jaden Craig. I mean, he's 6'3", 230 pounds. He's a grad transfer and set the Harvard program single-season record for completions at 208, touchdown passes at 25, and passing yards at 2,800. But I'll say, you know, the defenses that he saw in the Ivy League going to be a little bit different than the defense chasing him in the Big 12. But I love what they've added. I think they've done a really good job in the portal. They added a linebacker from Virginia Tech named Michael Short. Karan Hayward, a defensive end from Western Kentucky who had, was just really good at Western Kentucky. And then Landon Walker, a running back from the Colorado School of Mines. When you think about some of these smaller school kids, Sonny Dykes going to Harvard, Colorado School of Mines, and Western Kentucky to get 3 important players in the portal.
And Landon Walker is a big bruising back. He's 6'2", 225 pounds. He's from Fort Worth. He played high school ball there, ran for over 2,000 yards at the Division II level, averaged 6.5 yards per carry. I think at running back they have a really nice two-headed monster with him and Jeremy Payne. Jeremy Payne broke out the last 3 games. They won their last 3 games. Okay, so 9-4. They were 6-4, and to your point, I think kind of deemed a disappointment. And then they won at Houston. They beat Cincinnati and they beat USC. And Jeremy Payne is the one common denominator offensively. He went for 103 at Houston, $174 and 2 touchdowns against Cincinnati, and then that incredible game-winning touchdown catch on a little screenplay against USC. He finished that game with over 120 yards of total offense, receiving and rushing. he could be one of the best running backs in the league, and they've added some weight on the offensive line with Noah McKinney, with Buchanan, the transfer from FIU, two just massive tackles.
Yeah, Buchanan allowed just 2 sacks the last 2 seasons and has been a critical pass protector. And then you also mentioned the transfer from Oklahoma State, Noah McKinney. So those are 2 guys that should start at tackle for TCU as they try to fill in their offensive line that's going to have some missing pieces to it from last year. And this is, again, an offense specifically with a ton of turnover. I mean, Jeremy Payne is the one guy, right? Other than that, though, offensive line has to replace a bunch of guys. You got to replace your top 2 receivers, McAllister and Manjack. You've got to replace your your quarterback. So, and then of course your offensive coordinator. So a lot will be new at TCU on the offensive side of the football. For me, I think there's a lot to like about this team and a lot to be optimistic about, but there's also a lot of question marks.
TCU coach Sonny Dykes here in about 10, but he was asked this week, he was on a TCU Frogs in a Pod podcast, and he was asked about the many different reasons that players transfer, and this was centered around his quarterback, Josh Hoover, who about this time last year had this big social media announcement that he's coming back to TCU and that Tennessee offered him a bunch of money, and he said no. Well, this year he's taken the bag as he heads to the defending national champions, Indiana. Here's what Sonny said about why players transfer.
I mean, it's hard not to get your feelings hurt.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing is, I don't really get mad. My thing is always when something doesn't go well, the first thing I always try to do is look in the mirror and go, okay, why did we lose this game? What could I have done better?
Mm-hmm.
Or why did this young man decide to leave our program? What could I have done better? And so that part hurts you a little bit. It bothers you just because you feel like somehow, you didn't meet their expectations maybe. And so that part's hurts. But you got to kind of figure it out. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, look, these kids are just like all of us. As adults, we have jobs, and the way you have to look at this is these are these young people's jobs, and and there's a factor that goes into choosing, why we have the job we have now, and would we leave this job to go to a different job? And there's a lot of factors involved in that, quality of life and all the different things, people that you're working with, ability to be able to accomplish your long-term goals. But there's always a financial part of that as well. And now the financial part exists in college football. And so, sometimes guys leave solely for money. Sometimes guys leave for better opportunity. I think sometimes all of us as fans of college football, we all want it to be black and white.
Yeah.
We want to say it's all about the money.
Yep.
Well, it's just like with us and our friends. Sometimes it's all about the money with our friends.
Mm-hmm.
And some other guys could care less about the money. Mm. And these college athletes are no different. Some of them get homesick and want to go closer to home. Some of them aren't happy with their playing time. Some of them don't like the scheme or the new coaches or whatever, it's just not working or whatever the case may be. And then some of them it's for money. And so they're really not any different than us. I think everybody wants to say money is the only factor. Money is a factor. And to some people, money is the only factor. But if you put a room of 100 adults together, and some guys will leave, change their whole life,
drop everything.
Love that from TCU coach Sonny Dykes.
Yeah, it's great perspective there, and I mean, he added the sometimes your friends are only in it for money, right, or the fame, and I'm sure he knows that, right? I mean, I'm sure he's had instances where people attach themselves to him and become friends, and they realize the only reason why that's the case is because he's Sonny Dykes, a football coach in the Big 12, and makes a bunch of money, right? I mean, I felt that from Sonny when he said that. I think, he's 100% right, and obviously a perspective that's really important to share, that, some kids do want money. Some kids are all about the money. I just want to get the highest paid and maximize it. Some kids are about the money and the right fit. Some kids are just about the right fit and figuring out that, if I can be successful here, I can go to the NFL and make tons of money. So I think everybody's different. Everybody's got different motivations, and I think he said it right there. But they did lose some guys to the portal, but they've also, they had 3 guys at the combine, right? 4 guys at the combine? Was McAllister at the combine too?
Yeah.
So Bud Clark, Obi Iser, and Caleb Elam-Zor. And by the way, those 2 guys, Obi Iser and Elam-Zor, basically were the big storylines from the linebacker position.
Right, which also caught my attention. I mean, those were 2 of the biggest risers in terms of their stock at the combine at that position, which tells me that TCU has some holes to fill defensively. Love the human interest side of what Sonny Dykes said. These kids, there's a variety of reasons. Everybody's different. Love the note that he had about some kids are just homesick and want to get closer to home, which in this case works out very well for TCU because a lot of Dallas area kids want to come back and play closer to home, which is right there in their backyard. So they add Karan Hayward, their big edge rusher transfer from Western Kentucky. They add a linebacker from Virginia Tech who was a starter last year in the ACC, Michael Short. In the secondary, they'll ask Jacob Fields, the Louisiana Tech transfer, who is an all-league guy in the Conference USA. He's going to be their safety, trying to fill the void left behind from Bud Clark. Then they add a couple of corners in the portal, and then they have guys that were backups, and they're very much a developmental program in terms of they produce at the cornerback position, NFL talent, guys that stick around in the program, and it's next man up in terms of Lamarian James and Vernon Glover, who showed flashes last year as backups.
Yeah, and as much as they lose on the offensive side, I mean, you mentioned some of the guys they're losing in pass rush. Also, Cody Canada, MacGyver, Bud Clark all gone. So they had a ton in terms of, their safeties, their corners, their linebackers, their defensive tackles. So a lot was needed. I mean, this is like in many ways a brand new football team. And so they're going to have to replace a bunch of guys that were extremely productive for them and helping them get back-to-back 9-win seasons.
And at the quarterback position, that's where I think fans will notice the biggest difference from last year to this year. You had Josh Hoover, cannon of an arm, threw a beautiful ball, but gunslinger mentality, threw a lot of interceptions, especially towards the tail end of last season, versus this Jaden Craig who's got an NFL body, maybe doesn't have as strong of an arm or the accuracy that Hoover had, but he does not make mistakes. High football IQ, he's going to be checking it down instead of going for the vertical route, and it'll be more sustained drives, I think, for TCU offensively.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to note they're going to play North Carolina now to open the season in Ireland. So, add that to the mix in terms of we haven't really seen teams go overseas and come back and be successful. Maybe it derailed Iowa State and K-State seasons last year. I don't know, but they, both were teams expected to compete for a Big 12 championship, but neither ended up getting to Arlington. So we'll have to watch both TCU, Arizona State, and Kansas in terms of their overseas trips, but they open up the season against North Carolina, and a team in North Carolina should be vastly improved from last year.
They only have 4 Big 12 road games. They get 5 Big 12 home games in Fort Worth. They play at UCF, at Baylor. They play at Arizona, and they wrap the season at Texas Tech. Their home games are BYU, West Virginia, Kansas, Kansas State, and Utah. So based off of last year's Big 12 standings, they play the top 3 teams in the Big 12. They have one of the more challenging schedules, I think, on paper going into the year.
Yeah. No, I mean, and this was, again, the case for TCU last year, too. I mean, probably a reason that neither you nor I picked them to win the Big 12. And, I mean, at the end of the day, that might have been the reason they didn't win the Big 12. They lost some crucial games, but they had a really tough schedule last year. And Sonny Dykes said to us before the season, yeah, I mean, it looks difficult on paper, but you never know in this conference because there's a lot of turnover and a lot of parity, but I don't know that we saw that last year. And again, this year, looking on paper, it's another difficult schedule for them.
Is another 9-win season good enough at TCU?
It's really interesting because it feels like the perception there is down. And yet, back-to-back 9-win seasons
for the first time in over a decade.
That's impressive. So, I mean, I would say, yeah, that 9 wins should be good enough. But, I mean, the problem is you're Sonny Dykes, you went to the national championship game your first year. So the standard is so high and the expectations are so high for what you're going to do that, like, anything short of winning the Big 12 championship. And remember, he didn't win the Big 12 championship that year.
Right.
You remember that. K-State did. So I think that's the difficulty is, it's 4 years? They've been to bowl games in 3 out of 4. They've won 9 games at least in 3 out of those 4, but they haven't won a Big 12 championship. And, of course, if you haven't gotten back to the national championship, you got to win a Big 12 championship.
Right. Sonny Dykes, the head football coach at TCU, is coming up next. We will ask him about his coaching moves that they made this offseason, bringing in Gordon Samus, who was at UConn last year. Sonny Dykes, TCU's Armadillo Spring Road Trip, touring Big 12 country team that we're highlighting today. 9-4 back-to-back seasons. What will it take for them to break through? Sonny Dykes after the break. He's Ari, I'm James. This is Big 12 Radio.
And Michael Greenstein, our officiating crew. Crawford puts it up in the air, and Texas Tech in the red wins the tip. We are underway here in Provo.
Well, he's open for a reason. And what he's got to do is just get it done on the defensive end. Watch this. This is good.
Atwell knocks it down, his second triple.
See, they can't go pick and roll the way they used to with JT not in there because the young big guys don't handle the ball that well.
Anderson wanders in, feeds down low, and Bamboye with the bucket. A nice look from Anderson.
That's going to be a great matchup all night.
Anderson, and knocks it down straight on.
John, that's going to be a great matchup all night. Did I tell you that?
Debonsa spins.
Great defense.
Kostic inside. Oh, my goodness. Circus shot, and it went in off the glass as he went tumbling down. Debonsa. And Rob Wright, baseline, little floater. That'll go. And a rebound pulled down by Booth. Right.
Oh, wow.
Oh, look at that hesitation. Great look. Davis wide open. Gets it to go. Under to it. BYU rallies and knocks off number 10, Texas Tech. And it's on to the Big 12 tournament. They'll face Kansas State in the first round.
Big 12 Radio, Big 12 Today, heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios, and our Spring Caravan Tour making a stop right now in Fort Worth as our Modelo Spring Caravan rolls along. Let's talk TCU Spring Football with the Horned Frogs head coach, Sonny Dykes. And, super excited to see your team this year because, this will be a whole new team for you, seemingly, especially on offense, where you turned to Gordon Samus as the offensive coordinator, and this will be a little bit different, I think, offensively than what you've been.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit different. But again, to the casual fan, I don't know how much difference they're going to notice. Little more reliance maybe on tight ends. I think our tight end room is really strong. We'll play a little bit more with 2 tight ends maybe than we have in the past, sometimes 3 tight ends. The passing game is something that's really familiar to me. It's more pro style, a little bit more air raid based. The passing game is, and again, that's something that I'm very familiar with. So really like the meshing of those concepts. Reminds me a lot of the things that I was doing as an offensive coordinator when I was at Arizona back 2007, 8, 9. We had a good tight end room with Rob Gronkowski and Chris Gronkowski, his brother, and some really good players. So we did some kind of different things then, about a lot of 12 personnel, some 13. So it's going to be a lot of that mix. And again, I'm really excited about it. I think it fits our personnel well. It's going to allow us, I think, to be a little bit more physical and consistent in our run game. That's something that we have not been as consistent as we need to be. And we need to become a more physical football team. I think the biggest thing that when you go and you study Gordy and the success that he's had, particularly there at UConn, they just didn't turn the ball over very much. And that's been an issue of ours the last couple of years. We've turned the ball over too much. And he's done a really good job of not doing that. And so that's one of the things that drew me to him. Really liked what they were doing offensively, but loved the way that they were playing the game.
Yeah, Coach, I've gotten to know Gordon a little bit from even when he was back at William & Mary and then the last couple of years at UConn. And I know he's obsessed with like that old school zone-based rushing attack from the Denver Broncos of the 90s and early 2000s. But the turnover piece is really interesting to me. What made that part so attractive to you during the process? Is that scheme-based? Is that his personnel? Like what all went into that, you think?
Yeah, I mean, turnovers – how turnovers occur and why they occur, we could sit here and that could be a dozen shows in itself. As you said, though, I think it's a combination of a lot of things. I think, it has something to do with scheme. I think it has a lot to do with avoiding 3rd and long situations, where your quarterback's getting pressure. I think it has something to do with your personnel. Josh Hoover was a really good player for us, but, he turned the ball over 42 times in the last 31 games. And so, if you go and look at their quarterback last year, I think he turned it over 3 times the entire season. And so that's been something that has really hurt us the last couple of years. And again, a lot of that wasn't Josh. Some of it was the situations that we put him into. Some, a lot of, like I said, a lot of 3rd down and long situations. I think a lot of that has to do with scheme, kind of the clarity of the scheme and what you're doing and how you're doing it. A lot of it has to do with fundamentals. Ball security and coaching fundamentals, quarterback pocket presence, protection up front, all the different things go into that. And so when you turn the football over, a lot of times people want to put it on the quarterback or they want to put it on the running back or they want to put it on the offensive line if the quarterback's getting pressure. But, man, there's a lot of factors that go into it, and we've got to do a better job of running to the ball offensively, finishing plays. When you hand the ball off and your running back breaks and he gets the ball punched out like what happened against us at the end of the Iowa State game last year. You need to have a bunch of offensive players that are hustling down the field and can cover the ball. And so there's a million different things that go into it, but hopefully that's going to be a big improvement of ours. The last 2 years, there's been too many games that we played in where we just didn't give ourselves a chance to win the game. We turned the ball over 4, 5, 6 times, and you're just not going to beat anybody in today's college football world doing that.
Sonny, I can't remember if it was your first year or your second year at TCU, or when we visited at Media Days, you mentioned that basically the team that's number 1 in rushing in the league wins the league. And
right.
That continues to be a thing. and for you guys, it feels like the right move with more of a run-oriented OC based on the running game not having been very kind to you the last couple of years.
Yeah, and as I said earlier, I think there's a lot of factors that go into that. Again, I think that the idea is always, blame the offensive line, but I think that there's a whole lot more than that going on behind the scenes. And so I just felt like we needed to do something different. And as I said, I had an opportunity to watch UConn play. I think it was a Friday night game a couple of years ago, and turned the game on and didn't really know much about what they were doing, liked the style of play, just thought that they looked like a well-organized, well-thought-out scheme. I thought their guys played really physical, played really hard. And I don't know that they had the most talented players. Those guys just played at a high level. And so that's when I began to follow UConn a little bit, and they caught my eye and studied them at the end of the year, and then kind of did the same thing this year. And, when I had an opportunity to hire Gordon, it just made sense.
Yeah, and to your point, Coach, their quarterback, Joe Fignano, he got the deepest into the season among any FBS quarterback without a single interception. And then you bring in Jaden Craig. I know that, it's open here in the spring, but you've got to like the fact that he had just 12 interceptions across over 700 attempts. He's got like a 1.68 interception rate in terms of percentage. So tell us about Jaden Craig.
Yeah, that's honestly where it started for us, was when, when we began to sense that there may be, Josh may be looking around as far as jumping in the portal. Jaden was a guy, we saw the film early. The more we dove into what he did, we thought it made a lot of sense to us. Gordy was familiar with him in terms of, they were both kind of on the East Coast, both from the same area. Those two guys, as we hired Gordy and started recruiting Jaden, those two guys meshed. I think they're on the same page. I think they both understand what it takes to win football games. The great thing about Jaden is he's a really smart guy. I mean, he's a Harvard grad. Last time I checked, I'm not a Harvard grad. And I don't know that anybody on our staff is either. So it all starts with a smart guy. It all starts with somebody who takes care of the football. And, oh, by the way, he happens to be really talented. I mean, he's 6'3", he's 230 pounds. He's got a huge arm. He can make all the throws. He's really good in the pocket. And as you said, he turned the football over very little. And again, I think all of those are factors that really drew us together. And I think he was interested in playing this style of offense and having a chance to play in the Big 12 and in front of 50,000 people every week and a big TV audience and improve his draft stock. And, we have had a lot of success through the years with quarterbacks. And I think that the marriage made sense in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and not just him, but you got a running back from the Colorado School of Mines. You've got a defensive end from Western Kentucky. So, you're really dipping into the non-traditional football schools in order to find some transfers. And, I think there's probably two schools of thought that stand out in terms of, former 4 or 5 stars. And you've certainly, played that game too with, some of these guys that maybe haven't worked out in one spot versus guys that maybe produce at G5 or FCS schools that have produced, and it feels like you're dipping more into the guys that have put up numbers even at the Colorado School of Mines or at Western Kentucky.
Yeah, I think when you kind of make the deep dive into, the analytics of do you take a chance on a 4 or 5 star player that hasn't produced someplace, or do you, recruit and try to bring in a player that has been really, really productive, maybe at a smaller level. For us, the kids that have, been successful at smaller levels have really been good players for us. And you go back and look at the number of transfers that we've had, those guys have produced at a high level. And so that's kind of been our philosophy is, go find somebody who has been a very, very good football player that's been productive, that's been able to stay healthy, that's a leader in his team, and bring those guys in and try to develop them, pour all the resources we have into them, get them into our nutrition program, get them in our strength and conditioning program, get them involved in all the recovery modalities and all the different things that we do to, we think, maximize guys. And those guys have produced for us. So that's been our school of thought, and it seems to be the thing that's worked the best for us.
Coach, what were you looking for in the portal for offensive linemen? Because you bring in Noah McKinney, who had a really strong grade from Pro Football Focus at Oklahoma State, and then the Buchanan kid from FIU, where he started 17 games at left guard and 7 at center. Like, he's super versatile. Just tell us about your kind of the way you attacked the O-line.
Yeah, for us, it was productivity, as you said. I mean, Noah played at a high level at Oklahoma State. You know, it was a rough year for those guys, and he, you know, he played really, really hard, played well under some tough circumstance. And so, you know, that was the thing I think that drew us to him. And, you know, and it's just been productivity. And so we're excited about those two additions. I think they're going to be both good players for us. I think they're both good fits for what we want to do offensively. So really excited about them both.
What does your spring look like, and have you changed or evolved in your thinking in terms of how you handle spring football?
Yeah, I think you have to a little bit. I mean, you know, obviously there's not as big a roster now as there was in the past. Now, the one thing that is different is, you know, pretty much every player is here other than a couple of the freshman players that did not graduate early. And so we've got more of a percentage of our players that are going to be here for spring ball than we've probably ever had in the past. We just don't have as many players, you know, as the roster reductions start to affect us a little bit more every year. You know, that number is going to dwindle down to 105 eventually. You know, you've got to be a little bit more creative in what you do. I think that, you know, staying healthy, and I think Indiana proved this as they made a run through the college football playoff. Staying healthy is probably as important as anything. If you go back and look at our 22 team, you know, that played for a national championship, we stayed healthy. And it's something that we haven't necessarily done the last couple of years. We've been pretty banged up. We had a lot of surgeries this past year, you know, way too many. And so we've got to do a good job of developing a physical mentality of, you know, just being tough and understanding how difficult that is to develop that. And the only way that you become tough is you got to work through some tough situations. And so, you know, there's always the balance between what's too much and what's not enough. But we're going to have a very physical, tough 15 practices. But at the same time, we're going to need to do a really good job at taking care of our players and making sure that we get through spring, you know, develop them at a very, very high level, but also making sure that we don't, you know, beat up a bunch of guys and end up having a bunch of significant injuries.
Sonny, I know that, you know, it's so early. We're just heading into the spring, but you guys playing that game over in Ireland against North Carolina to kick off the season, which is awesome for the fans and the experience and everything that goes into it. But it's also kind of been a kiss of death for some schools. So have you thought about, like, how do we manage the mental aspect and the travel and just everything that goes into a game of that magnitude?
Yeah, it has taken its toll on a lot of teams. I mean, if you went and looked at Kansas State and Iowa State last year, I mean, they were two of the favorites, you know, going into the Big 12 season, and they both went and played there and then didn't play particularly well after that game. You know, the one thing that as we sat down and started talking about doing this, the one thing that was kind of a must-have for me was an open date following the game. And so we're fortunate, you know, neither Iowa State or Kansas State had an open date last year. They had to come back and play immediately. You know, we weren't going to do that to our players. I just didn't think that was the best situation for our guys. So, you know, we'll have an opportunity to get back here, get rested up, get refocused, and, you know, and hopefully be able to pick up where we left off. And it won't be that taxing, trying to catch up with rest, all the type of things, and get ready for the next opponent. You know, we'll have a chance to catch our breath a little bit, recover, and then start getting ready to go play Grambling after that game.
Sonny Dykes, head football coach at TCU. Sonny, thanks as always for your time. Have a great spring. We'll talk to you again soon. Take care.
Yeah, appreciate you guys. Look forward to catching up with you soon.
Thanks, Sonny. All right, thanks to Sonny Dykes for joining us here on our spring tour. This is our Modelo Spring Caravan because there is no off season. Remember, there's no off and off season. There's only research. Modelo Spring Football, earned, not given. The full-time fan from Modelo knows no off season. All right, it's Big 12 Today, presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios.
Year's Eve of 2024. And partying like it's 1999. Brown starts us off the window to 2.
I love the Prince way off the center, and it worked because he had a one-on-one play.
By the way, Terrence Brown's from Minneapolis, but that was not on purpose.
Good point.
Cam Carr glides to 2 as he answers right back.
Unbalanced numbers. Baylor can run on them if Utah doesn't get back.
Williams trying to put Brown in a blender and does.
Yeah, here comes a post-up right there, Pete. Look, this is a mismatch. They came to double, which was good, and that's what happens when you double.
Cam Carr hesitates. Here's Yesufu. He's going to send Alex Jensen to the therapist. The Utes have made 4 of their last 5. Can they make it 5 of 6? Oh, friendly roll, they do. Kendall Sanders joins the chat.
They reminded me of your mom's school, Villanova, back in the day against Georgetown when they shot 70% in the NCAA final and beat them. I mean,
soccer and of course, Big 12 basketball. Check this out.
Whoa.
Oh,
my goodness.
Blockbuster bang. Oh, look at this. The finish from Tunde Yesufu. The flip from Caden Powell. A 26-point win at home. Set to go to Kansas City in style with NCAA tournament hopes remaining.
One final time here on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. You just heard our interview with TCU football head coach Sonny Dykes, part of our Modelo Spring Road Trip, touring Big 12 country. There it is. Final thoughts on TCU. I love the angle that Sonny Dykes took with, hey, we've got to stop turning the ball over. And in his 4 years, TCU has a probably the largest discrepancy of anybody in the Big 12 in terms of when they win the turnover battle, they win the games. When they lose, vice versa. And they had problems turning the ball over last year. Josh Hoover's turnover rate was almost 3%, which is really high for a quarterback. Jaden Craig's less than 2%, which is really rock solid. That's a major sticking point for TCU and how they're going to build their offense.
Yeah, great insight from Sonny Dykes. Also, mentioned that the passing game is more familiar to him with Gordon Samus's air raid principles and passing, and that's an interesting angle, again, on what this offense will look like. We think, Kendall Briles seemed to have an offense that fit what Sonny Dykes has done historically, but Sonny mentioning that Gordon Samus's offense fits a lot. And then, I think, I don't know that he threw shade at Josh Hoover, but, it's obvious that he felt like, that they can improve at that position. And look, we saw it. When things went wrong for TCU, it felt like Hoover couldn't come in there and stabilize things. And look, there was a lot asked of Hoover. They didn't have a running game the last 2 years, and that's a big reason why they bring Samus in. But he's not a complete victim of the circumstances around TCU football last year. Like, he's the reason why they lost some of those games with some really bad and timely turnovers.
Yep, totally agree. All right, it's the final whistle. A couple of things to bring to the table. I'll start with the hard data behind you. You had a great nugget earlier about how dominant these teams at the top of college basketball are, with the 4 1 seeds from last year's tournament and the 4 1 seeds projected for this year's tournament are doing things that we've never seen in college basketball in terms of how dominant they've been. Looking at the Kent Palm numbers.
Yeah, basically between 1998 and 2025, 5 teams were plus 35 in the net rating. 5 total teams. All 5 of those teams made the NCAA Final Four, and many of them won the national championship. This last year, all 4 of the 1 seeds were plus 35 in the net rating before the tournament started, and all ended up in the Final Four. And this year, 4 teams that are all expected to be 1 seeds are plus 35 in the net rating. So after 5 between 98 and 2025, we're looking to go 8 for 8 the last 2 years with 1 seeds. We'll see.
Man, that's crazy. So last year's tournament only had 13 underdog wins. So if your strategy in Vegas is to cash in on the underdog, you had a rough week. Only 13 underdog wins, tied for the fewest since the field expanded to 64 back in 1985. The Elite Eight had all top 3 seeds last year, tied with 2007 as the chalkiest quarterfinal round in tournament history. 3 straight tournaments over the last 3 years with no multiple double-digit seeds in the Sweet 16. There's been 1 or less. That's the first time it's ever happened.
Wow.
Since the tournament expanded. And there was only 1 double-digit seed that made the Sweet 16 last year, and it was 10-seeded Arkansas, coached by Coach Cal, like they were hardly a mid-major darling by any means. It was NC State the year before that, another power conference team. So non-power conference wins over power conference teams all year long, 29 total. That's down 59%.
Wow. From
the 2021-22 season, the year that NIL launched. There's a lot of data to back up that the mid-majors, they're no longer competing with the power conference teams.
Yeah, and I think there's good reason for that. Many of those teams are losing their players. And, so one of the advantages that those programs tended to have over Power 5 opponents in the tournament especially was, hey, this is a team that's been together for 4 or 5 years. This is a group that knows each other well. And going up against Power 5 teams that maybe have top recruits, that maybe have a group of freshmen playing crucial roles, right? Like that don't have that same advantage. Well, that advantage has been neutralized because many of those teams don't stay together that long. That's what makes Miami of Ohio that much that much of an incredible story.
Yeah. I heard Dickie V say that Travis Steele, who's the coach at Miami, Ohio, is his National Coach of the Year pick. I mean, they've run the table. The average margin of victory this season between power conference teams and mid-majors was at a 5-year high, 15.1 points per win. And then the NCAA tournament, the average spread last year was a 10-year high, 8.7 points was the average spread in that first round. And then this season, the power conference versus non-power conference, massive leap in the last 4 years. The average spread was 23 points per game.
Wow.
That's going into the game. So it's trending that way, and we'll see if the NCAA tournament continues with that trend this year.
I also think, so I mentioned before that, many of those mid-major players are graduating up to the Power 5 ranks, but it's not just that simplistic. I think the Power 5 teams are better also because guys aren't immediately jumping ship to go to the NBA draft.
Yeah.
So instead of, potentially being a first or second round pick or trying to get a contract overseas, you've got a lot of guys that are staying. You also have pros from overseas coming to play at the Power 5 level. So I think it's just the talent pool is so much larger for the Power 5. You've got group of 5, group of 6 cast-offs, guys that want to level up. You've got guys that don't end up going pro immediately and guys that come from Europe to play. So the talent pool is just so much larger. So that's what's allowed these teams to be so much better because, you look at that plus 35 number, and it's not like those programs are better relative to the mid-majors, right? Like, we're talking about 4 teams in the top 4 from the SEC, the Big 12, the Big 10, and the ACC. So they're doing that against their opponents from their own conference.
Right, like Duke has just been destroying people in the last month.
I mean, they have the highest net rating to enter an NCAA tournament ever at plus 40. Think about that. Before that, Duke in 98-99 had the highest at plus 39, and they ended up losing the national championship game to UConn.
This Duke team has the highest net rating ever?
Yes.
Man.
And actually, I believe, if I have this correct, as long as the numbers hold, Duke and Michigan have the 2 highest numbers ever.
Michigan just lost one of their key guards to a season-ending injury. Can't remember which guy it is, but he was a starter. So how will that impact them? But they're stacked. I still think Arizona can make a deep – I think Arizona can still win the whole thing. I mean, if they're knocking down perimeter shots, they don't take a lot of them. I also just can't wait for some of these matchups stylistically. Arizona and Duke are very different. Arizona and Michigan are very different in the way that they want to play in the NCAA tournament.
That's a great point.
Miami, Ohio's second in the country in scoring at 91 points per game. They're number 1 in field goal percentage at 53%. I cannot wait to see them in that first round against whoever they play. Can you imagine being a 5 seed and having to play Miami, Ohio in the first round as the 12 seed? The other team is St. Louis. They're trying to fundraise a bunch of money to keep shirts one more year. They've been really good in the A-10. Utah State's been a power in the Mountain West. They've got a couple of guards averaging over 16 per game. They're top 30 currently in KenPom and a projected 8 seed in the NCAA tournament. Can there be one of these mid-major sleepers to break through? Those are probably the best candidates.
Yeah, and I mean, people love High Point. What High Point's doing with their star, who's kind of already made a name for himself pre-tournament. And of course, we have these conference tournaments going on right now, and they're spectacular. There's some really good games coming down to the wire. And, all these bids are up. 6 auto bids have already been assigned. 31 total auto bids are going to go out, and we'll learn all of these teams over the next week.
All right, tell me about this instant legend, this high school hooper.
What do I need to tell you?
Abner.
Did you look at him? Did you watch?
I looked.
Hunter Abner.
How would you describe his game?
He's got some old man rec center game to him. And he's carrying some poundage.
He's carrying some pounds. Yeah, he's a little heavy. He's husky. He's a husky perimeter player.
It's almost, if you remember the SNL skit with Matt Foley, a little bit like that, where you just see him, Matt Foley, out draining threes. With all due respect to this high school kid who's killing it. But, yeah, I mean, he's a fan favorite, and anytime you get, like, you know, Indiana high school basketball, you're gonna go viral. Yeah. Yeah, Bloomfield, their sectional championship win over Cloverdale. Hunter Abner had a huge game. And he looks like a big-time perimeter shooter. Fun stuff.
That's.
I mean, there's just nothing better this time of year with all these buzzer-beating threes. And it was the Navy basketball game. And they're
Navy against Boston U.
Yeah, where Chance Gladden buried a three-pointer from about 40 feet at the buzzer. So Navy goes coast to coast in a tie game to go up 72-70, and then with 3 seconds left, Boston goes the full court, gets the ball to Chance Gladden, who buries a three on the road, lifting BU to their win in that game. In what conference is that?
Northeast?
Northeast, thank you.
I'm gonna guess on that one.
Yeah.
It was a sick three, though. Like, he split 3 defenders, went behind his back with the dribble, and just pulled up, shot it like a normal three from almost midcourt, and buried it for the win. All right, that is the final whistle. We highlighted TCU today. Special thanks to TCU coach Sonny Dykes, who joined us this hour. We also had Cordy Nesper, the digital content producer at Gold and Blue Nation, to break down West Virginia women's basketball and their Big 12 championship. Chancellor Johnson, the Big 12 analyst and content creator, joined us in hour number 1. Big 12 tournament season on the men's side is here. The women's Big 12 tournament in the books. We'll break down more tomorrow on the program. We're back 8 to 11 Eastern time. We are highlighting Iowa State tomorrow on the program. We'll break down the Iowa State Cyclones, talk with head coach Jimmy Rogers on tomorrow's show. He's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. Special thanks to Anthony Smith behind the scenes on the video side. T-Chains on the audio. We're out. Peace.